think about?
Nothing. The answer is straightforward.
Okay. Good.
It's in the affirmative to everything that you'll want to ask. Yeah.
Even next is affirmative.
Yes.
What are you thinking? Next?
Next. Welcome to the show. It's a Friday, so we'll be having a close of the week show today. Keep it right here for a lot of discussions and a lot of your engagement and participation in the show. As always, we will begin where we always begin, and then we'll be looking at all the big newspaper headlines going into the weekend and looking at what we expect to see in the weekend. Coronavirus was kicked out of the headlines a long time ago. It's now in page, is it page 7? I don't know.
Yeah, page 6 on
cool.
the Nation.
Yeah.
7 in the Standard. Out of the headlines.
It's not a story
Not only
anymore.
completely. There are papers where you can actually look and then look again.
And there's no COVID.
No,
COVID,
you will see everything else.
Everything but.
Yes.
Everything but COVID. Okay, so let's look for that COVID story and start there.
Okay, so 426 number of COVID-19 cases reported yesterday from a sample of 5,158. And that takes Kenya to 31,441 cases, with unfortunately 516 deaths. However, 17,869 recovered. And it's ranked in Africa as number 8, behind South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, Morocco, Ghana, Algeria, and Ethiopia. And coming hot off the heels of Kenya is Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, and Madagascar. South Africa now has 596,060 cases, with 12,423 deaths, and 441 recovered. So they still continue to test rigorously. However, the cases still are rising. Looking at COVID around the world, the United States at 5,746,272 cases, with 177,424 dead. 3,995,484 of these cases are recovered. And the global figure for recovered cases has crossed 15 million now, 15,515,681. India is going to cross the 3 million mark by this weekend. We're looking at today, tomorrow, standing at 2,904,329 and rising up there. Okay, so now looking at official numbers, now by the time this paper went to print yesterday, South Africa was at 596, 3,000 more cases until this morning now. So yes, South Africa also 599,940. So that's a correction there. The countries that we see continue to rise with cases. Mexico with 6,775 cases in the last 24 hours and 625 of those dead.
Wow.
Yep. So this is what we're looking. It sounds like it's almost normal to talk about this,
Yeah,
but
It's like,
okay. So you expect at
like
least
just
500
other
people to die.
Statistics.
Yeah, it's like just
You
another
know the word.
statistic.
You know the word normal seems to imply negatively that you're condoning it. It is normal
It's normal that
until
people
it changes. The truth is that it has become normal. When it reduces or when it goes higher, it's a change, yes. But what is normal is what you're saying. It's neither negative or positive. It's just
there.
It's just a fact.
It just
as it actually
is.
stands. Yes.
It just is. Yep. Okay. So, again, with some of the highest cases in Africa, over 26,600 deaths on the continent. If we look at Egypt following. Now look at the difference between South Africa and Egypt. 599,000 cases in South Africa, and then 96,000 cases in Egypt. Easily 400,000 cases more.
What? Egypt is still below 100,000.
Yes. Okay, and I think it was very interesting that the top eight countries with the highest cases in Africa would be seen as Africa's largest economies.
Yeah.
South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, Morocco, Ghana, Algeria, Ethiopia, Kenya. looking at that, I thought that was interesting. If we can draw parallels between movement that was happening or trade that happens within these countries, or just the size of these economies and what their potential has to offer, they are the ones with the highest cases on the continent.
Yeah. Because also interconnectivity, right?
For sure.
So there's... What?
Can be seen as regional hubs, can be seen as regional.
So
stars, as it
91,000
were.
cases in Egypt and how many deaths?
96,000 cases in Egypt,
96,000.
actually, with 5,107 deaths. 197 deaths, I beg your pardon. So, under 10% of the total cases have resulted in death. And I think this is the same, except for South Africa, which is slightly higher than 10%. Slightly. No, not even. Slightly higher than 5%. This is the numbers that we're looking at.
Yeah.
Slightly higher than 5% across Africa of the total number of cases has resulted in death.
Well, since we are looking at a doomsday scenario, let me add to it by informing you that in Kenya, 4 of our labs that were hitherto tasked with testing for COVID-16 have halted
19.
the operation.
Uh-huh.
Yes, and these labs have a capacity of testing 16,000 or conducting 16,000 tests per day.
Reason for halting?
Well, reason for halting, the usual culprits, lack of reagents, lack of test kits, lack of capacity.
Are these government labs or even private labs?
These are government labs, my friend. Yes, I will even read them out so that you understand. These are the National HIV Reference Lab, the National Influenza Center Lab, which, by the way, which is actually housed in Kemri, CPHR, Center for Public Health Research in Kemri, the Mobile Lab at Namanga, and the Naivasha Dry Port Lab.
So Namanga and Naivasha Dry Port, no more testing.
No more
So
testing.
the Tanzanians are not going to come.
Who says this? What about the ones who are already in the queue?
Yeah, so what happens?
So what do they do? They reverse those lorries. Brother.
Because that is one serious issue. The Namanga lab, the mobile lab, was going to address a specific need.
Yes, it was.
Because there was growing concern about the backlog and all those tests having to be brought all the way to Nairobi and taking long. And this mobile one was actually sorting out that problem.
Yes. Now, this is, according to the report in the Star on page 2, it doesn't tell you when this problem occurred. It just states it and leaves it for you to now figure out. But of interest, the ministry has announced that it's also in the process of trying to determine the possibility of excess deaths in the country as a result of COVID. Planning to. But again, on a
Possibility of...
they want to study. They haven't started yet. These excessive deaths that have been caused by COVID, they want to initiate this particular study. Now, this is one of these cases where you're not sure what you're reading is as a result of the person who's reporting it, or
that's the
whether
actual thing.
what actually happened could have been reported differently, it could have meant something different. But I am simply stating what I've read. Then,
What does excessive death mean?
I am explaining to you what I'm reading, and now you're asking me to interpret what I'm reading. I would suppose it is many deaths, as opposed to fewer deaths.
516 deaths in the country.
And the question one would ask is
They've been
this.
saying that this death rate is still below 2%, so...
Yes, it is, but should it even be 1% if it's COVID related? That's the question that one should ask. But the Kenya Medical Research Institute is next week expected to receive a batch of test kits to boost the number of samples tested next week. Okay? That's on a positive note.
Expected.
Yes. However, what they also tell you in this newspaper report is that the number of tests have been lower in the past few days. So if you've noticed that this is where you get the hint as to how long. It didn't start yesterday, in the last couple of days. Today's Friday. So just start on Monday.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'd actually push it back to last week.
So just to mention. But again on the COVID matter, there's a term that is often used. The pronunciation of it I find is interesting. It's PHISHING.
Phishing.
Okay. It's a cybercrime.
Yes.
All right. Now, one of the things that has happened again with COVID is that cybercrime has actually increased, and more so on this continent with regards to COVID. the people who have been most hit, this is according to Kaspersky, that Russian-based software that is supposed to be the guardian of all malware.
interwebs.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly. So, South Africa has been hit the most. And the attacks in Egypt, for instance, have been 400. Well, South Africa is around 500,000, just so that you understand. Egypt, 492, again, close to 500,000. Nigeria, low.
Why is your voice raising higher?
Well, I'm looking at the population, and I'm looking at the country in 299, and I'm wondering, why has it been lower? Is it that Nigeria doesn't have the connectivity that Egypt and South Africa have? What are the reasons behind this? Because for you to actually have this level of cybercrime, it means that your cyber activity is also at
It's
a very,
quite
very
high.
high level. That's really what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yes. I thought I should just mention that in passing.
Very interesting, I must say.
Is there an indication of what kind of crime this was?
Well, yes, they let me...
Is it cyber attacks or is it orchestrated cyber crime from within the countries?
Well, what they have actually been doing is very simple, okay? What they do is they've been forming reputable companies. Remember, the whole idea behind phishing is to actually gain information, to get
your
details
secure
that
data.
ordinarily, yes, exactly. So you form names, or you should we say you form replicas of reputable companies, and then you issue out information of the association this company wants with the individual, and which to do and to actualize, you need to now give voluntarily your yes, you and your crime. Yes. Now, what they do with this information, you know, now this is a totally different story.
Okay. So we are not talking about the origin of the crime. You're talking about the destination of the
Yes,
crime.
it's the destination.
So, yeah. So you can understand why Nigeria will be low.
You're suggesting that probably some of them emanated from there.
If we twist these things around.
You know, many of these things are actually passed through emails. So you need to receive emails. But I think we may be wrongly accusing our not so very near neighbor Nigeria on this particular matter. There are people who are able to actually bypass and reroute information so that it appears like it actually emanates from one country. And in reality, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Yes.
Yeah, but when you hear that the people who are being arrested are people of these nationalities,
Maybe the ones were easier to arrest.
it tells you something. What's the name of the guy who was caught in Dubai?
Hush puppy.
The flashy guy. Hush Puppy. Right. Now he's already been taken to the States.
He's a guest of the state.
All
States.
right. It's 6:15. It's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. We take a break, take a look at weather, and then we come back with the big headlines and the big problem. Good morning.
.24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
As the world changes, so do we. We adapt to our situations to bring out the best in us. This is why the Standard Group and Oxford University Press East Africa have partnered to bring you Tutor Summer Online. For just 10 shillings, you have unlimited access to the reputable source of revision materials conveniently. All you have to do is log into tutorsoma.standardmedia.co.ke and make the most of the time for all students, including candidates for both primary and secondary schools. So, as we stay home, we keep dreams of future successes
All right,
alive
Friday,
while
let's see what the
making
skies
homeschooling
look like. It's mostly cloudy in Nairobi at 15 degrees. Again, a chance of showers today with highs of 21 and lows of 13. Cloudy conditions in Nyeri at 14, highs of 20 and lows of 13 today. Also with wet conditions forecasted for later. And in Nakuru, it's partly cloudy at 13. Thunderstorms are in the offing with highs of 22 and lows of 12. Eldoret is overcast at 13 degrees today. And it's likely to open up into some showers later with highs of 21 and lows of 12. Mostly cloudy in Kisumu at 20, highs of 27 and lows of 19. Going into a wet weekend, and this will follow in Kakamega as well. It's mostly cloudy at 16. Highs of 24 and lows of 16 with showers expected going into thunderstorms. Mombasa is the same, partly cloudy at 24. Rain is likely to start any minute now with highs of 28 and lows of 23. Partly cloudy conditions will through the day, highs of 28 in Malindi and lows of 24. It's mostly cloudy in Kampala at 19 degrees, highs of 25 and lows of 18 with showers expected later. In Dar es Salaam, it's mostly cloudy at 22. There'll be a chance of a shower here with highs of 31 and lows of 21. It's a bit warmer in Johannesburg today at 5 degrees, highs of 18 and lows of 4 and sunny conditions all through. Lagos is going to be a wet afternoon going into a wet weekend with highs of 27 and lows of 23. Currently partly cloudy conditions at 25. And in London, it's clear at 20, highs of 23 and lows of 16, and it'll be an overcast evening into the weekend. It's raining this morning in Paris at 22, and those rains will likely last for a while with highs of 29 and lows of 17. It's still Thursday night in New York at 27 degrees, highs of 28 and lows of 20 today.
Pure golden sound and good talk. 94.4 Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
18 minutes, now 19 minutes after 6. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's hear today's big proverb.
Today's big proverb is a really simple and straightforward proverb that you can attach and align to all manner of meanings. All monkeys cannot hang on the same branch. Think multipartism.
All monkeys,
No, not parties.
all
Chief.
monkeys.
Monkeys.
Cannot hang on the same branch.
You're taking the view that,
Multipartism.
well, you could think along those lines. You could think about polygamy. You could think about many things that require multiplicity of.
And you're saying it's impossible.
I am saying it is really not possible because it doesn't happen. It never does. If that tree has only one branch, which again is an impossibility in reality, then the monkey will move to another tree.
Or they'll fall off and get injured.
Monkeys
So,
rarely do.
With reference to polygamy, who's the branch?
Now,
And who's
you
the
have
mon-
entered
and
the
who's the
conversation
monkey?
and introduced polyandry. I see exactly where you're going with this. And let's make it gender sensitive. Let's talk about polygamy. Let's talk about polyandry. Shall we? Yes. Take your pick.
So who's the branch?
Figure it out.
Who do you want the branch to be, Eric?
I'm wondering. So who's the branch and who's the tree?
As I said, figure it out. This is the whole point of a proverb what is saying. It's actually supposed to be cryptic. In its simplicity, it's supposed to be cryptic. So, cryptic it away.
All right, then.
Okay, let's look at the big headlines. The family of the late Changamwe MP, Ramadan Kajembe, has really had a rough time this year.
It's very unfortunate.
Yesterday, they
Extremely
buried
so.
the firstborn daughter of Ramadan Kajembe and his first wife. Her name is Langoni Kajembe. She used to be the manager of the KPA Shimoni Port. She's suspected to have died of COVID-19. She died early in the week, and she was buried yesterday on her 46th birthday, which is also her wedding anniversary.
Poof.
Those 3 dates. Born on this day, married on this day, buried on this day.
It's a tough one, man.
Tough one. A couple of weeks earlier, Ramadan Kajembe, her father, had been buried, died of suspected again COVID-19. A couple of weeks before that, their mother had died, Aziza Kajembe, also suspected of COVID-19. Earlier in the year, in February, the family lost Kajembe's second wife, Mama Zaharia, who died in February. So, man, 2 wives, firstborn daughter, gone in 6 months.
That, my friend, is like the poster definition of tragedy.
It is.
Yes.
It is. I mean, it's...
It is exactly that. It is. How exactly do you even find words to express it?
You can't.
You really can't. You really can't. Okay. Looking on COVID matters. Graft-ridden Chemists now seeks 5 billion shillings to stay afloat, and donors have begun their probe. Agency has 6 billion shillings consignment of medical supplies it can only sell at a huge loss. The Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, KEMSA, has been left holding on to medical supplies worth 6 billion shillings that it cannot move because they were bought at inflated prices. In the guise of fighting COVID-19, the agency now claims that it is broke and is asking the government for 5 billion shilling bailout, even if, as it emerged, that it cannot account for 17 billion shillings allocated to it for the last financial year. The two major foreign donors at the Ministry of Health have threatened to withdraw funding due to rampant graft. A KEMSA board meeting held on Wednesday revealed that the agency's operations could grind to a halt unless the government offers to bail it out. Sources who spoke to The Nation said that the agency intends to ask the government to allow it sell off some of the items procured to fight the coronavirus in order to stay afloat. An ongoing audit has already found that the agency has at least 10 items worth 6,397,034,383 shillings that could have been bought for half the price. The agency now wants to sell them at a lower value of 4 billion as it waits for a cash bailout. If the government agrees to KEMSA's request, taxpayers stand to lose 1,926,841,075 shillings. It's interesting that The Nation states that they are aware that this absurd request is likely to reach Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe this morning.
This morning.
Yeah, obviously.
And then?
I thought that was interesting. But even as Kagwe ponders on whether to recapitalize the agency, already rife with graft, the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, and the Global Fund have raised the red flag over how KEMSA has been spending their money. So, it's a problem.
Okay. I have this feeling that we're being pushed to start focusing on KEMSA management and not anything else with regards to COVID. So we have someone to blame.
I think
you guys have been talking about COVID money. Now, KEMSA.
Look at KEMSA.
Yeah.
I think they're being used as a scapegoat. I think there are deeper issues.
There are issues in KEMSA, yes.
Of course.
But that is not the only problem that we have. In fact, the bigger problem is not KEMSA
It's the
or
Ministry
management.
Of Health.
Yes.
It's the Ministry of Health.
You know, if you take the view that COVID is viewed by many who we believe to be part of this cartel or this group of people who are determined to line their pockets through the misery of other Kenyans, then you actually cannot blame KEMSA. Not really. They are probably, you would probably argue that those are people, even if you're the CEO of KEMSA, you take instructions from some other place.
Yep.
You are not the last port of call. It's not you who makes a final decision on some of these things.
Yep.
Yes. So, having taken that job, if it turns out that you are the fall guy, well,
that's it. In fact, to take up that job knowing that very soon you're going to be the fall guy. No KEMSA CEO serves their term.
no.
Nope. You will get to some point and there'll be some issue here and there and you'll be out.
You know what is of interest is, the rest, every time we talk about COVID-related issues, what is also of interest is that everything else that happens in the country continues.
Yeah.
It's not as though it stops. Like the flood levels in Lake Baringo have not subsided. No, in fact,
They are rising.
yes, 18 schools have flooded. 18.
Is it raining in Baringo?
I think it is.
It is. It still is.
It is. There are parts of the country where it's actually
It
raining.
still is.
If you go to Nakuru, they are now not telling people to actually evacuate the places they live in. Places like Kihoto, places that are near. Because the water levels are rising. So this story of West Pokot, Lake Victoria, it's becoming national now. We've moved from there. And we're not talking about it. But don't think the problems that were there went away. No. We're just not talking about it. It's like we have this taste for new horrors. Okay? The old horror is just an old horror. We're now used to it.
Yeah.
Now a new one.
Give us something more.
Nakuru.
Potency.
Goodness.
Add.
Lake Baringo. Goodness.
I think that whole Rift Valley region, this man, our friend George Natembea, has his plate has overflowed.
No, he has his work cut out for him.
He has Baringo, he has West Pokot, he has Nakuru, and then also there's this tension.
Then he has Mao.
In Mau, in Narok.
And then on a light note, it's this very, very same problems. And then when you throw in COVID as sort of like the umbrella problem that engulfs all of them, there are 4 governors who are on their second term and on their way out.
Yeah.
This story of legacy is catching up with them now. Because it is clear that come 2022, they will no longer be governors, whether they want to or not. 2 terms, gone.
Done.
So now, they are now being reported to be struggling to try and ensure that their so-called legacy, you see, catch what? Legacy?
Yes.
Legacy projects have actually been completed. Meaning, because of COVID, well, they said they had stalled because of COVID, different story, of course, but it appears now the people in these counties may actually see some progress.
Because they want to leave a lasting impression.
Because there's that idea that they want to leave a lasting impression. And all these stories are on page 19 of the Star.
What are some of these projects?
Let me just mention some. First of all, why don't I mention the governors? There's Jackson Mandago, Patrick Haemba, Trans Nzoia, Alex Tolgos, and Josephat Nanok. Rift Valley. Okay, the projects that you're talking about. For instance, the agricultural projects. There are people who are praised, but Haemba is praised for having done a wonderful job in Trans Nzoia with regards to this. Mandago has also been praised for some of the wonderful things he has done, but there's a little problem of the hospitals that were supposed to have achieved a certain developmental process, now which they haven't. Essentially what's being referred to here is that the normal processes that they had in their plans to achieve, haven't been achieved. Like the Eldoret 1964 stadium. You know, that one has been built now for around 7 years. We haven't completed it. You know, originally...
So the 1964 stadium is different from the Kipchoge one?
Inakwaga hivyo. Remember, we had a master plan for building God knows how many stadia around the country. We know that followed very hotly on the heels of the computer project. And we all know how all that
The
ended.
9 stadia have not been completed?
No, they haven't.
6 months have not.
They said, 6 months have not elapsed. They said 6 months.
Look,
We were told in 6 months.
1 year ago, the 6 months have not elapsed.
We're still waiting for the 6 months to elapse.
Just wait.
They never
just
said
wait.
which 6 months. Come on, guys.
Yes.
So
Now, the Eldoret
didn't
area
say
in the
when they
north
they
of-
start.
didn't say when the 6 months begin. So please.
One big project that one ought to have perhaps considered was there was a soy maize milling plant. This is a $500 million shilling plant. Now, you'd have assumed that given that region actually is a breadbasket when it comes to the production of maize, that such a project should have been completed, isn't it?
You would
Yeah.
assume.
When is it? Where is it? It's in Wasingishu.
Yeah. But it's still being talked about.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
It's also a legacy project.
It's a legacy project.
So every time we have this conversation, you must bear in mind that some of the things that could definitely have changed the lives of the people in these counties, and don't limit it to the counties of Rift Valley.
Yeah.
Look elsewhere.
Yep.
Look at it broadly. They haven't been done. So you have to ask the question, why are they making them legacy projects when they were just ordinary projects that they should have done anyway. Because these are the things that would help the lives of their people.
And it's in helping the lives of your people that you build a legacy.
But just in case you thought it was safe to get out of the water, the coast isn't all that calm. Kilifi has seen as part of what is reported to be elite police officers arresting what they call, or what people who are considered, to be extremists, Islamic teachers. Now, specifically, these stories have come out of Kilifi. And people have been arrested, some have been beaten, some have been asked to actually show, the contents of their phones. A sound beating usually fast forwards the process of you issuing the
Information.
yes, this particular information that is required. And it's something that is actually raising debate. The MP from Vita has actually raised this issue and has asked the police, if they're the ones involved, well, who else could have been involved, to tread carefully and to be sure that what they're doing can be supported by facts. But it has happened, and it has been reported.
A number of clerics arrested and
Incarcerated.
okay. 28 minutes to 7 o'clock. Let's take a break, take a look at what's happening on the roads this Friday morning, and then we continue looking at other big headlines of the day. Good morning. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The live stream is up, www.spicefm.co.ke, as well as Spice FM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And later on in the show, you can actually also join the conversation by calling in on 0719 012 600. Good morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Traffic on Mombasa Road this morning. We're likely to see that it's going to hold up right until you get to the SGR, and then it'll probably clog up towards Cabanas this morning. It's a Friday morning. Everybody's heading out. We have some traffic out on Thika Road, heading out of the city. Also on Waiyaki Way, heading out of the city in that direction. So we're going to keep an eye on what's happening outside, headed towards Limuru and such. Okay? But for now, it doesn't look too bad. Everything looks like it's flowing along quite smoothly. Today is the day, guys, where Thika Road will close from tonight at 9:30 and will only open up at 4:30 in the morning for the next 5 days. So you need to plan in advance of time, and we're likely to see some massive traffic in the mornings during that time. So prepare for that. Spice FM KE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. It's still early pickings, but let's see what the roads look like from your neck of the woods. If you're stuck somewhere, let us know. Or if you have a way out, let us know that too.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, so you never thought that you'd hear this, but you know the taxman considers drinking a sin. That's why he imposes a sin tax on alcohol.
Sin as in Dhambi.
Eh.
How old is this particular law, and when was it first introduced, and how long has it existed?
Okay.
Which one?
Sin.
Declaring sin. For a very long time. So, every time that you hear there's a budget and the National Treasury is seeking ways to raise money, the first place that they raid is alcoholic beverage and smoking, right? Now, with all that, there is, of course, reduced consumption of alcoholic beverages because the outlets have been closed due to measures to curtail COVID-19 spread. Now, there's a story on page 4 of the Standard which says why the taxman is missing drinkers and smokers. Next time you walk past a closed bar, spare a thought for KRA.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Because the taxman has lost 17 billion shillings in just 3 months after the robust booze and nyamachoma culture was ostracized in March.
I'm hard-pressed to find anybody that's going to have any kind of empathy or sympathy for the Kenya Revenue Authority.
Well, you have to remember that is the money that is used now to pay for COVID-19.
The same money that...
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the money that comes back to the economy. Yeah.
Okay. The same one they can't find.
You know, I don't know, calling it a syntax it's just...
City's stuck on that point.
Yeah, I'm stuck on it
Well,
because...
that's a colloquial term for basically...
Oh, no, it is a correct term. You see, I am actually going back and asking, what could they call it? Because the question I'm asking is, why was it called that? Because there must have been a reason why it was called
Why
that.
it was called the syntax. The origin of the term
Yes,
syntax.
because it's what is normally associated with alcohol.
Yes. It's a
No,
sin.
the consumption of alcohol. No, the excessive consumption of alcohol.
It's the things that you're led to do while intoxicated that now brings about this whole idea of sin.
No, not led, my dear. Enabled.
Able to do.
It's enabled to do. Yeah, it's the proponents who argue that the consumption of tobacco and alcohol, the behaviors associated with consumption, or both consumption and the behaviors of consumption are immoral or sinful. Hence the label sin tax. Since April, the amount the government has collected between April and June 2020 in excise duty was 35.7 billion shillings, a drop from 52.5 billion collected over a similar period last year. 23 billion is employee taxes that the government lost between April and June 20th because of all the measures that were put in place and also because of job losses, of course. The tax collected in the last financial year was 1.6 trillion. And the amount of excise duty that KRA collected from beer alone in 2019 was 27.7 billion shillings.
So,
now you can imagine, and the only way that this is when there's consumption. When there's reduced consumption, our brothers at Times Tower are really, really having a
so you're saying that in order for Times Towers, KRA to remain afloat, we should allow people to drink and eat and make merry.
Yeah.
Abi?
Yeah.
But they have. The only thing they're telling you is, please do it in your house. and maintain social distancing.
Maintain social distancing
while
while you're at it.
And then the do-gooders will tell you, no, problem. You are now introducing alcohol into the home and the consumption of it. You're normalizing it. Now, this is the Lord who will tell you this. You are introducing sin.
In the house.
Yes, it's becoming a domestic issue. But at the same time, yes.
None of the children are told what alcohol is. So John, our producer, he was whispering in my ear, Raibinaya mom.
Yes.
That's wine.
That's wine. But we never really call these things what they are. We have terminology for describing. For instance, when a parent wants to describe sex to a child, they say tabiambaya. Now, can you imagine when a child carries that idea into their head
that
as
actually
you
is
grow?
a bad thing.
Yes.
It's tabiambaya.
Because in the parent's mind, they haven't actually resolved it. That's why it is that way inclined. Same with alcohol. Pombe ni mbaya.
Usiguze hii.
How, and forgetting that there's one particular commodity that we all use. It's called a sanitizer. That thing is alcohol. European mbaya.
If you misread
But while we're talking about the tax person, We are being told that the record a jump in revenue to 1.6 trillion despite COVID, currently as we're talking.
As we say in Nigeria, they
by
don't
the
have
end
problem.
end of the year, right?
Yes.
Can you imagine? We collected 1.6 trillion shillings. Oh well, not we. They collected 1.6
No,
trillion shillings from us. We paid.
Yes, we. Eh?
Claim, man.
As a country. Right. Yeah. So we raised 1.6 trillion shillings in taxes last year. And how much did we pay for the loans? Close to a trillion.
Yes.
Over 900
million.
billion.
Billion. It's after million.
No, sorry. So I told you we have a problem with this.
I just remembered that you have an issue
It's
with
billion.
It's billion.
billion.
Over 900 billion
Billion.
is for paying
So
back
there's
loans.
100, then there's 10, 100,000, then 100,000,
Billion.
then million,
It's a lot of money.
then
Then
billion,
100 million.
then trillion.
So essentially, it amounts to
Yeah. So all that money that they collected, nothing stayed in your hand. No.
You know,
It's just gone.
if we had never had an occasion when this country actually managed to collect, despite, by the way, the problem that we talk about, it's not as though they come to an end.
Yeah.
No, every government has its own problems. But despite all the problems, we actually had this unique epiphany, this moment when we actually collected all the money we needed to run the country. We had it, Yani, we had.
It was happening at some point.
We were
And
the
imagine-
poster child.
And imagine that time we were collecting less than a trillion.
Yeah, of course.
And it was all the money we needed. And how long ago was that? About 15 years ago.
Yes.
15 years later, we are collecting 1.6 trillion shillings, and it is less than half of the money that we have budgeted for.
It's not enough.
I think it's the type of money we are collecting. It's the variety that evaporates. Even as you move it from point A to B, what you collected doesn't quite get to B.
They're collecting the evaporating kind.
And that variety is what is used for development.
Imagine.
Because when you move it from wherever you move with the treasury to the development projects, again, it evaporates.
Then there are those who would argue, right? You know, when they say that big infrastructure projects then will be for development and you will see the fruits later, there are those who would argue that the infrastructure projects that we saw being launched in between 2003 and let's say 2012 are what we are reaping. That's why we are now able to raise 1.6 trillion. It's because of the work that was done then. So even now, as you see all these infrastructure projects, as you see us spending so much money on roads and expansion of roads, on building airports and all this, and SGR, just give us another 15 years. We'll be collecting 5 trillion shillings.
And giving away 4.5.
The truth of the matter is, if we are collecting 1.6 trillion during COVID times, that 5 trillion you're speaking about doesn't require 15 years for us to get there. No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Imagine what you'd be able to do with that 1 trillion shillings that you're collecting every year and then putting that into the economy, into the development of the country. Imagine what you would be able to do with it as opposed to giving it away to high interest loans and other things that for which you haven't been able to see the benefits of in your lifetime.
Big time.
Just imagine.
Before we move away from this issue of COVID and the impact of COVID, there's a story here that talks about how the COVID pandemic has hurt chemists. 95% of pharmacies in Kenya have been affected by COVID-19, with the majority opting to downsize or completely close shop, according to a new survey by Philips Pharmaceuticals Limited and Pharmacy and Poisons Board, which notes that increasing cost of pharmaceutical and procurement is one of the negative impacts from COVID-19. The Philips and Pharmacy released the results of the month-long survey that was conducted in June. Now, the survey focused on impact of COVID to pharmacies and the interventions that have been put forward to put forward a robust recovery. The retail survey was able to reach 448 community pharmacies countrywide. Of all these 448, 42% had been in operation for 3 to 5 years, while 35% had been in operation for more than 10 years. 98% of the pharmacies still provide prescription dispensing, and nearly a similar number also provide over-the-counter dispensing. Now, the impact of this is that many of them have had to downsize, and many of them have had now to see whether they just close altogether because they're unable now to buy medicine and to transport the medicine and everything else that they sell. Impact of COVID just on the health sector, which is fighting COVID, which is one of the sectors that is actually helping to fight COVID, but it's been severely affected. I wonder when a study is or a survey is actually conducted on what happened in those 3 months when we recorded a drop in the number of hospital visits. How many of those clinics were able to reopen? Remember, we were talking about many of them having sent people home?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting to hear whether any of them has
I've been
actually
able to
managed
open.
to reopen, especially the small ones, the community ones. At 13 minutes to 7 o'clock, it's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. So we take a break now, but before we do that, let's remind you about this portal by the Kenya Ports Authority. www.kpa.co.ke/Captain Cargo. And Captain Cargo is an information portal by the Kenya Ports Authority that allows you, that helps you to get all the information that you need to understand the operations of the Kenya Ports Authority.
Yeah, so CT raised an issue yesterday about communication to importers, to exporters, and the Captain Cargo portal is actually quite clear in terms of how they're able to help. And we'll be going through those today. General standards. Number 1, give you 24/7 port services, except on the 1st of May and the 25th of December, which are public holidays. Everybody wears a name badge, and then you're able to identify who they are and provide you with these services within a safe working environment. So that's the first thing that you can be assured of, then using now the services of the port. And Captain Cargo is letting us know that 24/7 you will have access to these services. So, you jump up in the middle of the night and you realize, okay, there's something I didn't check. There's somebody to answer those questions. And we'll look at some of the other standards within which they operate within throughout the
So you just call.
You just call. You literally pick up the phone and call. And if you were to visit the port site, you would be able to know whom everybody was by virtue of the fact that they have
Name
adequate
tags.
identification.
Right. Good morning. It's now 11 minutes to 7.
Spice FM, Malindi. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4
Right,
Spice
now
FM.
To 7 o'clock. Big story.
When Al-Shabaab abducted a PS. The Kenyan recruits were inspired by Sheikh Iman Ali, which is the subheading here, a JKUAT engineering graduate behind Al-Hidra. So, Public Works Principal Secretary Mariam Al-Mawi was supposed to inspect some projects in Lamu on the 13th of July 2017 when Jaish Ahmed attacked her convoy on the Mokowe-Mpeketoni road. The PS was with her nephew, a trainee pilot, when the shooting started in I can't say that name, a sparsely populated area whose bushes offer Al-Shabaab a canopy to waylay to waylay unsuspecting travelers. The militia took control of the PS's vehicle, which had 6 occupants, and sped into a thicket. She had been shot in the leg and shoulder, while her nephew suffered fatal bullet wounds. The abduction of the PS would have given Al-Shabaab the kind of victim it was looking for, but a team of the Kenya Defence Force soldiers and the General Service Unit personnel rescued her. Sadly, she died while being treated in South Africa 3 months later. This story goes back to 2006, when some Kenyans were recruited into the Islamic Courts Union government in Mogadishu, which was supposed to bring some order in the volatile Somali capital. This story is looking at the fact that these recruitments continue to happen, and eyebrows now are being raised. 29 people died. 67 people were the numbers who were killed in the Westgate attack in Nairobi in 2013. And this story is shedding light on the fact that it continues to happen. These recruits continue. This recruitment has continued. Women are now crying out to the point where they are saying, where are our sons and husbands? Because people have gone missing. And the thing is that they've now been recruited into some of these terrorist groups which continue to operate within the region.
Yeah.
And it's something that we sometimes forget that it goes on, right? Until an attack happens, until a Dusit attack happens, until a Westgate attack happens. Then we come to the realization that this recruitment actually has been going on.
It's something that has happened for a long time. The nation has done a good job this week because it has been commemorating the commencement of Operation Linda Nchi, which is when the Kenya's military now moved into Somalia. And it was sparked by some abduction as well that happened in Lamu of some tourists. And now it was the end, because series of abductions had taken place, and it was appearing as if the Al-Shabaab were just getting more and more brazen in their attacks. And so this had to happen. But then, you look back and you realize that it's not just even during Al-Shabaab. The precursor to Al-Shabaab, the Islamic Courts Union, is when the recruitments had started happening, and youth were moving over into Somalia, crossing over into Somalia, all across the coast, and even in parts of northeastern, where parents would complain and say, you know what, our sons have gone
missing.
They have gone missing. They've just been recruited, they've gone into Somalia, and then they come back now again, completely radicalized.
You know, when you have that discussion, you must actually ask the question, what is it that made it possible for the recruitment of these young people to take place? Because something must have catalyzed it. There must have been a position for them to seek and find hope in radicalization. Should we say the ground was already fertile?
It was fertile
for their recruitment.
There
are those who would argue that being young, they would fall easy prey to it, but no. There must have been something.
It's young without tangible opportunities.
Yes.
And so here is one person who's coming to recruit you and telling you, you know what, when you go there, you'll become an important person and you will be earning. Because that's like the ICU was promising people, it's a job. Don't look at it as anything else. It's a job, and you're serving this, and it's not deviating you from your religion, what you've grown up knowing.
Sure, but you also realize that, studies that have been done around the recruitment of some of these is that they target specific individuals who would need something. You see? So are you low economically? Is there something that they promise you which you would not ordinarily have in your home situation? The appeal of money is actually quite high up there. And you find that, they'll tell you, if you do the studies, that a lot of these recruits come from really, really humble backgrounds. And here's the promise of money. There's the promise of martyrdom. There's the promise of so many other things that, it's a different way of life. And so to inculcate them into this terrorism, then it's not very difficult. Look at now, and I liken it to conflicts that you saw in Liberia and Sierra Leone, whereby they used child soldiers. What did they do? There was the appeal of power that they introduced to a child. And so that's what they grew up knowing.
Well, they give your life an alternate meaning that is tangible.
They
tell you, you see it.
Exactly, as in, we can give you money and you actually get the money.
You get the money, we'll give you power, they give you a gun.
Yes. And that's what it was.
You have purpose, and they even help you to shoot.
They train you.
You shoot this one.
Now imagine that sort of thinking on a young person because a young mind, arguably, is easy to manipulate. Okay, because this is a person who's still in the throes of trying to figure out which way,
What's
left,
life?
right, up, down. Yes.
Yeah.
So you help them by saying it is left, or it is right, or it is up, or it is down. It isn't the first time. If you look at what we've referred to as revolutions around the world, if you look at recruitments that later led to atrocities that we'd look and marvel at, like the Nazi rule, youth.
Young people.
If you look at the communist movement
in Russia,
China, youth.
youth.
Because these are people who could easily be indoctrinated, could easily be told to follow a certain path, and they would follow it and question him. The questioning comes later, much, much later. And with the question comes regret, but this is much later when the harm has actually been done. Yes.
Because, I mean, now look at what you're dealing with. One of the problems that you deal with in Sierra Leone, for example, is post-traumatic stress disorder for a large number of the population who were child soldiers just 10 years ago. Literally, 10, 15 years ago, these children were 4, 5 years old. And it sounds like such a tender age. But that's it. 3 to 6 years old is your age of socialization. So you can imagine somebody's taking you in at that point, is drugging you, is giving you the gun, is giving you whatever you need to survive. Will you know a different life even after the conflict is over?
You know what is often forgotten in this country was that we once had, I don't know whether the party still exists, it's called the Islamic Party of Kenya. It was led by a certain Sheikh Balala. Now, Sheikh Balala actually began his preaching at Mwembetayari, just ordinary outdoor
On
preaching.
the street.
Yes, nothing happened. Then radicalization came in. Now, the result of this was very painful, and it cost very many young people their lives, or they were maimed, or they were damaged for life, and it caused many, many parents at the coast a lot of grief.
Yeah. Some serious misery.
Yes. Serious misery.
Yeah.
So whenever you find a situation when people are busy talking and clamoring for things they consider an injustice, please look into it. You may not think it is, but that's what you think is not really important here. It's why they think it is an injustice. That's what must be looked into.
Yeah.
Yes.
Coming to the top of the hour, remind us today's proverb.
All monkeys cannot hang on the same branch.
All monkeys cannot hang on the same branch. Anything close in Swahili?
What's monkey in Swahili?
Well, depends on what. You know, monkey for us
Which type of
often refers to primate. So, is it nyani,
Nyani, tumbili,
beri, which one?
Oh, my monkey now.
sokwe. All those things are monkey. Mumu,
Monkey.
monkey.
See, you've got it.
Kenya's biggest conversation. We continue in the next hour. Good morning. It's now 7 o'clock.
Spice up your life.
Okay, so what do the roads look like
Traffic.
this Friday morning? You know it's overcast in Nairobi. We also know that quite a number of people are going to be heading out. So Kenya has asked us to remind everybody that the Thika Road will be closed from today at 9:30 p.m. and that happens until 4:30 a.m. for the next 5 days until Tuesday. So motorists are being advised to use exit 8 at Kasarani, follow Babadogo Road and join Thika Road through Outer Ring. Now, motorists driving towards Thika are advised to use the diversion around the site or seek alternative routes behind the Mountain Mall. Please exercise caution during the work areas to follow the traffic management plan and the directions given by traffic marshals. There will be traffic marshals on the road. We know that there's going to be traffic already, but please be careful. That's what we're being asked to remind everybody about today. Jogo Road is flowing very well today. Outbound is moving along. No drama so far. Thika Road also looks good for now, as does Mombasa Road. We'll look at more details in a short while. Let us know what you see. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. The only
It's two
way
and a
to
half
start
minutes
your
after
day.
7 o'clock. Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room on Spice FM, broadcasting on 94.4 Nairobi, 97.7 Malindi, 90.9 Nyeri, 96.7 Eldoret, 96.0 Nakuru, 102.5 in Kisumu, and 87.9 in Mombasa. City, you're saying you have a problem with billion. The number of zeros in a
Yes. It's 9.
billion. They're 9.
Yes.
Mhm.
Somehow I can't seem to easily wrap my head around it, because it is a million to me was colossal. 100 million
100
was now
billion.
beyond colossal.
And
Now you throw in a billion. Whoa. And the reason why it's a problem is because, remember the time in which I was a child, 1 shilling could buy you almost a packet of sweets.
No, it couldn't.
Yes, we dealt in cents, by
a
the way.
shilling was a lot
was-
of money.
Yes, a shilling was a lot of money. It was 10 cents.
You could actually get a shilling and run and operate a month.
Yes, a shilling was a lot of money.
Oh, get out of here.
Actually, we're not exaggerating.
For a month?
No. I mean,
Eric.
it is stretching it, but it
If
meant
imagine
it had
10
value.
cents could buy you something, you can imagine.
No, you know, you're talking about 10 cents. I'm talking about a cent. We had 5 cents.
5 cents.
What could, you,
It bought you something.
what could you buy for 5 cents?
Vegetables, fruit.
Like the ones people are buying for
Remember,
2
this
million
was
shillings.
Simone.
Please remember, this was a time when there are certain fruits that people didn't buy. Things like avocado,
You just pick it
guava.
off the tree.
Yes.
Like mangoes.
Yes,
Still
pomegranate.
still
You
happens in
you
Nigeria.
picked it.
Pomegranate even.
Yes, you didn't. This buying culture was something that was limited to certain things. So when you talk about vegetables also, there were vegetables which, for instance, if you went to the market, I'm trying to remember what the equivalent in English is. It's like something that is in the family of the kale family. You bought this and this one's you're given. You just, yes.
Yes. When,
So if you come from that era, I know it's a strange era, and I'm talking about something that might as well be in another solar system. But when you come from that background, 1 million shillings is too much.
yeah.
Look,
A billion.
why don't I bring it to the modern day? Let's bring it to the 20th century, all right? The salary that anyone who at that point in time graduated from the university was just above 2,000 shillings a month. Just above 2,000. And believe me, it was adequate for your needs. You could save in the bank, cooperative, yes, pay rent, eat, 2,000.
Wow.
So, it never went beyond 2,000 and. It's when you worked for the government as a teacher for 10 years, that's when your salary was something like 4,000 bob. 10 years of
You're a
service.
big shot.
So, yes. So, if you come from that particular background of thinking, someone says 1 million, as I told you, I mean, I was being a little facetious, but 1 million was what the government maybe borrowed from World Bank, okay? 1 million, yes. Then came 1974, and for the first time, we're introduced to something called inflation. We didn't know it then. Prior to that, before OPEC became OPEC and became powerful and started flexing
In
the
80s,
muscles,
Yeah.
yes. So prices started rising. The idea of inflation was made public. It was made common language. And certain things, as I say, the rest is now history. But here we are. So I think in terms of what a certain currency could buy and what it can't buy now.
Right.
So when you throw billion, I have to ask, what do you buy with a billion?
In your mind, it's like you could buy the world.
Yes, because
a
like when
billion
someone
shillings.
says, for instance, a car costs, say, 10 million, my mind
you're
immediately
like,
goes, why 10 million? A car, why? And someone tells me, no, their car costs 35 million. I'm thinking,
Throws you into a tailspin.
I think you understand where I'm coming
I
from.
get it.
So it's not that I don't understand it. It's just that it puzzles my mind. It actually really puzzles my
And
mind.
then when you hear that people are actually
It's a big number.
taking billions for themselves.
I then asked the same question.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are you doing with
But
it?
that
First of all,
question for me was
the last
partially
guy, you're not
answered.
afraid.
No, it was partially answered because I realized that we had an article in the papers recently about in Kenya, airports or places where you can park aeroplanes complaining that they had more planes than they knew what to do with, and they were planning to sell these planes. These planes were owned by individuals. Now, the issue of planes was long overtaken in this country by something called a helicopter. So people buy helicopters. So I figured, okay, I understand. Because when you look at the cost of a helicopter, you understand where the money would go to. So if someone owns several, you understand. And this country, with our copycat attitude, somebody buys a helicopter. Now people want to buy helicopters.
I want one too.
It's a status symbol.
Absolutely.
I'm waiting for them to buy yachts. Or should I say
they've not started?
It will start.
So you want to say yacht?
You'll get there.
yacht?
They'll get there.
But Eric, you asked me this question for a reason.
If
Yes.
they've not already gotten there.
Because I wanted you to think about 61 billion shillings. That's the money that will be required to roll out online lessons for pupils.
61?
Billion shillings. Countrywide. So you
so-
see, we've been talking about online lessons, e-learning and putting e-learning. So if you think about the kind of money that we throw around, what you require so that if COVID-19 were to happen again, call it COVID-20, or to happen again, is just 61 billion shillings. You'd have infrastructure across all the schools in the country, and pupils would continue learning online.
When we say infrastructure, Eric, what do we mean?
We mean power, we mean
Internet
learner
connectivity.
devices, we need teacher devices, we mean routers, we
Training.
mean projectors, everything.
What about the buildings?
The schools are there.
No, not all of them may meet these standards. And also,
So they need to be
with the
working.
ravages of, I'm sure they've considered this, but with the ravages of the floods and other natural catastrophes that have actually visited us, I'm sure they've budgeted for this, but there are schools that you would need to bring up to scratch to ensure that this thing, and all that has been taken into account.
Yeah, but this is just talking about ICT infrastructure. All right? Schools is schools. Schools should be looking at building the schools. And all
Yeah, the government actually gives schools money for those sort of
that.
things. Yes, they
So
do.
this is, if we want to continue this digital literacy program, 61 billion shillings would sort it out. This is what was said by ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Mushero when he visited the committee of the Senate, and he was telling them, guys, we already had a program like this, but our budget was slashed by 75% by the National Treasury, and therefore the digital literacy program was basically
Shelved.
shelved
Where did the money, when you slash it, you take it somewhere, where did they take it to?
into other more important and more pressing needs.
Okay. So perhaps they should return it.
Yep. Because they're looking at all the number of schools. You know the number of schools we're talking about? 21,729 across the country in all the 47 counties. We'd have projectors, we'd have routers, we'd have 43,000 devices for teachers. We'd have a 1.07 million devices for learners. We'd have installed capacity so far is only 21,600. Then we also look at power status. They presented all this there before the Senate and said, if we got 61B,
We'll be able to
get,
sort out
we
this
can
thing.
get to a place where you'd enter into a classroom and every learner would have a digital device and every teacher would have a digital device and then would be able to operate. So yes, now we can talk about if schools are closed, do the learners still have access to internet at their homes? That's another conversation. But at least within the school environment, they'd have that.
By the way, if they have it in school, they don't necessarily need to have it in the homes. Not really. Because, for instance, I know of day schools that, because of the very challenges that you're alluding to, will allow students with the permission of their parents, written and the visit of their parents, for children to actually study in school and then go home. But it's planned for, so it is known. These are the children coming to learn up until this time, and this is the time they go home. And all that is planned for. So if you have it in school, because many of these schools are neighborhood schools. They're schools that one can easily walk to.
Yeah.
Yes. The boarding schools, of course, are a different story. But the day schools provide an opportunity to equalize this disparity that you are referring to. Yes.
And this is because we're talking about primary. Many of the schools, many of the public schools are actually boarding.
Yes. And primary schools, by their very nature...
No, they're day
They're
school.
day.
Yes.
Many primary schools, by their very nature, have to be in close proximity to the habitation of the people in that particular area. Yes. See, one of the things, of course, that previous governments perhaps did and did well was to simply increase the numbers of these schools. Because we do have schools. We do have schools. It's not that we don't have them, we do. Whether we maintain the standards that are required, that's a different story. But what we do know is that the schools that the government took the initiative in building, at some point, that particular initiative slowed down.
Yeah.
And then it's like the private sector came in to augment that.
Yeah.
Yes. But let's, for purpose of a discussion, a school is a school.
A school is a school. Is a school.
Yes.
As long as pupils go somewhere and they learn and there's a teacher, that's a school. Meanwhile, so what we're talking about is just for grades 4 to grade 6 learners, because already from grade 1 to grade 3, they already have some tablets. 1.2 million tablets have been delivered to schools, and this is representing 99.6% of the total number of primary institutions in the country, with 1.16 million tablets distributed for use by grade 1 to 3 pupils, putting the average cost of a tablet at about 25,700. Overall, 1,900 new schools have not received the devices due to budgetary constraints.
Why does that tablet cost that much money? Well, what does it have that?
The 25,000.
Yes, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for a tablet.
Of course. And especially if you look at you're buying 1 million
You're buying it in bulk, Chief.
1 million tablets.
You know this one, Eric, you can even go to the manufacturer, forget a middleman, and say, we would like you to manufacture with these specs for us. It will still come very reasonably. 25,000 shillings, Kenyan shillings for a tablet? No, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Yes.
We'd have to understand exactly why this costs that. Is it maybe because is it solar powered?
My friend, even if it was hydro powered, okay?
Nuclear powered.
Yes. An explanation is actually necessary. But again, this is the discussion we've had before. There probably is a very viable explanation. But if it isn't presented, then questions which need not arise.
Yeah.
But 25,000 still for a tablet.
Especially if you think about that this is a tablet to be used by a grade 1 pupil. Right? So it's not really complicated.
You know, what my mind went to are the sort of tablets that are used, for instance, in research settings in remote areas. They have all manner of things to protect it from dust, protect it from rain, protect it from what have you. It comes with very many things added to it. So you could say this. That's why I was asking, so what does it have that makes it that costly? What have they added to it?
So tabs for kids fully equipped with the Longhorn publishers, okay, with Wi-Fi and 4G, brand new. Someone is selling them at 9,199, a similar one, and this is what
This
it
one
has.
is costing 20.
It has comes with free access to primary and secondary e-learning platforms. This is now supported by Longhorn publishers with timed exams and exercises. It has over 10 preloaded games and education apps. It has 45 4G SIM card slot. It has a 7-inch display. It has operating system that is an Android 6.1, 16 GB ROM, 1 GB random access memory, 3000 mAh battery. It supports Zoom video calls. It has free wireless stereo headset, flip cover, screen protector, 3D glass, power bank, touch pen.
Everything and more that this one that is being
9,000.
provided has for a third the price.
You know, when you require the volumes that we're talking about, you, as I said, you go to the manufacturer
Yes.
and you have a discussion.
Yep.
Yeah, you negotiate because you're
And
getting hundreds
yes,
of
this
thousands.
is what we wanted to come with
Yes.
because we need it for this. And this is the sort of upgrade we will need come this time.
Going for
All that is taken. So when you have it, it comes with all those things that you require. And believe me, if that thing costs you more than 4,000 bob, you'll really have tried.
Something that they should have thought
now
about.
imagine
actually.
25 Gs. That's 6 tablets.
Yeah.
If you were to buy at about 4,000. It's crazy. It's a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. It's a crazy Friday morning, the 21st day of August at 16 minutes after 7. In the room this morning, as always, is C.T. Muga, Nduoko, and Eric Latif. We're looking at the big stories heading into the weekend. It's going to be a busy weekend now with the kind of politics that we've seen playing around. You expect, more hosting to happen somewhere, maybe in Kajiado this time. Maybe it's going to happen somewhere in Western. Maybe it's, nowadays it's, I just had lunch with 2 or 3 people. So politically, we'll see that. And on the COVID front, we know that 4 labs are no longer operating with COVID testing. So there's a lot that's happening, and that's what we're looking at this morning. Keep it right here. Let's take a break, take a look at the weather, and then we'll be back shortly.
It is crazy
The
Friday.
weather
So
with-
as we look Nairobi now, 15 degrees. Then talk say rain go fall later, but it go hot reach 21. Nyeri, as we dey see, I'm like this. Rain don't start to dey follow. Small sha. It not day too cold as we go see and reach 20 today. But for now, sha, na 14 degrees as we dey see am. Nakuru, then talk say cloud go cover everywhere. 14 degrees, sha, but rain go fall later. Highs of 23. I been at 24 then talk. Okay. Rain down the fall Eldoret already this morning for 13 degrees. Highs, they say go reach high 21. But cold go day well later. Make una start to the west sweater now. 20 degrees as then they say am for Kisumu. Then talk say rain go fall here too. Highs of 27. Kakamega for that west side went far. Highs of 24. And then talk say rain go fall. Still, it go reach Saturday. This rain when they talk am as we see am now. Mombasa, as you want go enter sun, they run for beach. Then say na lie. Rain go fall, so you know fit do am. High of 28, low of 23. Malindi sha, you fit run go Malindi because rain no go fall there today. Highs of 28, lows of 24. So make we carry reach Kampala, where they say cloud don't cover everywhere, but thunder go come. Later, highs of 24, lows of 19. Dar es Salaam, sun they shine for now, sha. Rain go fall later. Highs of 30, lows of 21. Make we carry go reach South Africa. The cold when day here fit roast your brain. 4 degrees, na so then see am. It no go high reach past 18 today, but sun fit shine small. Lagos, as we know am, 25 degrees. Last giddy no grill, rain go fall here until Saturday, highs of 27. Na so we see am. We go look am another time.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, make me carry back street.
It be like say una president one busy reach today.
As I was listening to that delightful litany in Pidgin, did I hear the mention of Miguna?
No. What did I say?
Gonna rain.
Oh.
Rain go
Toe.
fall.
Okay, I see. The Guna bait is the one I caught. So I added the me.
It truly is crazy Friday. It be like say your president one busy today reach. Embakasi ranch owners will receive title deeds of after a 45 years wait today. President Uhuru Kenyatta is going to issue the documents to more than 30,000 residents of Embakasi Ranching Company, Tasia Estate, and the Korogosho and Bagathi informal settlements. The event is part of the president's Nairobi tithing program launched in 2018. Titling, sorry. I was thinking it's the weekend. It's like, wait a minute. Somebody's going to be asking for a tithe. The president is doing the same. Hey, okay. The initiative falls under the National Titling Program, which has seen more than 5 million title deeds issued in several parts of the country in just 7 years. So last week, the president gave the Nairobi Metropolitan Services 2 weeks to ensure that the title deeds reach their owners. The Embakasi Ranch was established in 1975 with shareholders drawn mainly from Kiambu and Murang'a counties. Many have since died, unfortunately. But President Kenyatta urged recipients of the title deeds not to be duped into disposing of their land, and he told them to use the documents to improve their livelihood. So there's going to be that ceremony today, and those are being handed over. 45 years in the waiting, but it's coming to light today.
And why did they have to wait 45 years?
At all.
So you know. So you know.
Take some time to get a title done, CT. Don't know.
Title. Title.
The right one.
No, titles don't really take that long to process.
No?
No.
Not 45 years?
No, not even a year, not even a month. Unless there's some complication, some legal
There was a whole
complication.
back and forth. Remember, Embakasi Ranching was this company that was owned by some Israeli guy,
It had issues.
right? And then now with the transfer of that, and who owns it,
And who wants it?
who wants it, where does it belong? Is there
And who wants how much of it?
exactly? So
And what was
over
supposed to
and
be given
over
to all
and
these
over.
people? But 45 years, man, that's stretching it.
It is.
I mean, there are people who began that particular journey probably.
They died.
Yeah,
They
we see
died, yes.
they're no longer alive, you know, and
And knowing our country as we do, that could also cause a problem.
Yeah.
It said that he's moved to actualize his desire, the president, for land reforms by issuing a record number of titles, especially in regions where land is a contentious issue. So,
And which part of the country don't we have contention where land is concerned? There are some who seem to peak, and there are some which are reported more than others. But tell me, which part of the country do we not have an issue with land?
it comes along.
See, land on its own may even not be an issue, but with land comes resources like water. With land comes resources like grazing land.
Livestock.
Yes, so
Yeah. That's where it comes. So that will be interesting to see today in terms of who actually gets this. So it will be great, I think.
that is kudos to the president,
Yes, absolutely.
because
Stay
that
on
is
one.
something that is excellent. And
Insisting.
it is good that people actually now feel a sense of ownership. It's important.
A proof of what you've just
It's
said.
important.
I always have a different feeling when it comes to land and titling. I get a feeling that I think we have over romanticized the issue of personal land ownership.
You don't think that people should own land in this country.
Let's hear him out.
Yeah,
No, but he said it before.
yeah,
Yes.
Yes, I want to
I
hear him,
think
I want
land
to
should
hear
be
him
communally
again.
held, and you get sort of a lease to do something with that piece of land
For a certain period.
for a
of time.
certain period of time, and you reapply. But this whole thing of I now have a title deed, and it's what makes people kill each other because of this title deed. And then if you ask them what do you want to do with this title deed, and now that you've received it, you still just don't know. It was just for that emotional feeling of I have a title deed. Even I can say
I have an asset.
I have a title deed. So what does that piece of land do? You don't know. What can you do with that piece of land? You don't know. Can you go to can you actually even go and use this land as collateral in the bank and get credit?
Eric,
Yes, you could.
What he seems to be
but
suggesting,
you don't know.
Eric is actually suggesting, in my view, that land has been bequeathed a spiritual value in this country.
That's exactly it.
But it has. And just coming off of that, we just see now land and cattle fueling fierce war in the Mau Forest. Warring communities, they've blamed land disputes and cattle rustling for clashes that have killed at least 6 and left dozens injured in Molo and Njoro in the southern Mau Forest. The latest attack on Wednesday night saw 3 people killed and more than 20 injured. 2 weeks ago, 3 people died and more than 25 others were injured following clashes that forced authorities to impose a dusk till dawn curfew in Neusuit and Marishoni. Residents interviewed blamed the scramble for land without title deeds and evictions from Mau Forest for the violence that has raged for 5 weeks. So yeah, the value and importance that communities place on land is sometimes it's almost
I
as
actually
if
don't
it's
have a problem
bedeviling.
when a community communally has an issue with land, right? That is, for me, that is okay. So, for example, if you say that this land belongs to us and we have agreed that this is our boundary between our land and your land, and now we are fighting over the boundary of that communal land, it's fine. Individuals fighting and
But
just
this is the
because
same-
you want a title deed. Now,
Sure.
all these guys, for example, we saw the same thing happening in the coast. Issuance of title deeds. What stories did we hear coming out of the coast? Yes, there are people who now have a title deed and therefore they say, I have claim to this particular piece of land. Others have this title deed, and the first thing they want to do is offload it. There's some certain attachment that we have to land in this country
Sure,
that
but
I
think
feel
the
is
same,
unhealthy.
The same spirit that you talk about that lives in the attachment of communities lives in
the
individuals. It's the same thing that is transferred from a community to an individual. You find a community in wherever, in the Southern Mall, for example.
Yeah.
If that one individual from that community moved to Nairobi or Mombasa and was able to purchase a piece of land, and somebody then was encroaching on their land or they didn't have a title deed, the same spirit then would manifest itself in that individual as well. So I don't think we can divide or separate the two. It is something that has beguiled people.
The difference
and it's
here
not just
is,
here.
the difference is, you see, for example, these pastoralist communities that own community land. So the community land is known that this is our land and this is what we do with this land. So we graze here. You even say this particular clan you guys have up to that point, and these are the clan you'll use up to this point. Those that want to farm, you farm on this side. And there's camaraderie and good living within the community. Individuals start dividing up that land. So you get to a point where, I don't know, the community comes up with this ranch and then they start subdividing that ranch to individuals. And then individuals start looking at that, I need to have my title deed here. This guy, I need to kill him so that I can get his title deed.
I need to kill him.
Yeah.
Okay.
We get to a certain point where now that the whole thing of holding a piece of paper called a title deed becomes more paramount than anything else, than what the value of that land is to you as a person and to the community that you live with.
We introduced an interesting topic of communal value, and we're now juxtaposing it with the individual sense of value that somebody can attach to land, and you are balancing and trying to say which is more important. But if you look at the land laws in this country, I think both issues are catered for, because there is an understanding of communal land in this country.
Yes.
There's also an understanding of individual ownership, and then there's a third thing here. This one may constitute the rhino in the room, not necessarily the elephant, is the amount of land that an individual can actually own.
A single individual.
Single. Yes. Because the amount of land that one can own then, in my opinion, becomes central to the discussion. Because prior to the ownership modern ownership as we currently know it, this land had been communal land.
Yes. Land in this country was originally communal land. We got to a certain point where now we started talking about individuals owning this land, and this is what the settlers wanted to own the pieces of land.
And even communal land, in a sense, if you thought about it, there are structures that countries have had with regards to the optimum utilization of land, where, for instance, where people live is in, say, one particular area, but where the farm is in a different area. You see? Where Eric's point becomes valid is because now that is killed. Because me with my quarter acre, that is also my farm, it's also my dairy farm.
It's everything.
It's everything, yes. So
and this is where you're gonna, your children are gonna inherit the same piece of land, and each of them will own their own title.
Yes.
So you start now subdividing the quarter acre that you inherited from your father. Your four sons start subdividing that quarter acre.
Yes.
And each of them wants their own piece of paper. And you get to a point where we have shrunk. Look at the places where the densely populated areas. When we were having a conversation with Professor Bitang and Demo the other day, that's what he was saying. Look, you find shrinkage of land, and everybody. So grandfather inherited huge tract of land, bequeathed that land to 17 sons. 17 sons, each got 4 sons. Those 4 sons, each of them wants a piece of land, and each of them wants a title deed. Why is it that we have a problem, for example, with in Budalangi, with the issue of the dikes? Because in certain areas, brothers are not agreeing on who has a piece of who has a right to this section of the land, so that they can get the compensation from the government, and you guys don't get because this was my part. What's this?
But of interest, even as you bring it in, I am thinking of little cultural norms with regards to land ownership, as you correctly put it. The community I come from, if you were the firstborn, it was incumbent upon you at a certain age. You built in the home, yes. What in English translates into a lion, just a small hut. But you moved out.
Yep.
You actually moved out, acquired your own property, and built. In times gone by, you maybe didn't need to acquire. Maybe you had an uncle or a brother of your father who had more land and would give it to you. But in modern times, people actually buy. They move out of that homestead. And it's not necessarily they move around the corner. They even move far away. But they look for places where it's considered that land is still in abundance. So the understanding seemed to have been that, yes, people do increase. And you need to start taking care of this issue early. And the others would also follow. Remember, you're talking about a time when...
Would the firstborn son, even with moving out, would they be entitled to a piece of this?
No,
land?
not really. You may have a say, as in you may discuss it, but once you move out, you now have your own. Yes. You will have a say in the sense that you're the eldest, and you will have a say. But as to claiming, by moving out, you've actually even moved with your claim.
That's it.
No, you're never going to come back and build there again. That's it. You've gone. And if indeed you do have a structure, it's ceremonial. So the discussions you'll be involved in as the eldest, but that's just about it.
So who inherits the land?
The others. In fact, what is interesting in my community, the person who actually inherited even the homestead of the parents was the last born.
The last born.
Yes.
That's their piece of land.
That's their piece of land.
And everybody else goes.
But what
then
isn't...
we got to a point now where everybody is inheriting this.
So so that is not difficult. If the house has more than one room, then you can divide the rooms. No, but the other factors that played into this scenario was something quite simple, in that this is a culture where people bequeathed land. They gave land. Even you, Eric, as my friend, if I had land, I was awash with the land, I could give you land, literally give you. We didn't sell, just give you.
Stronger city.
I said, Eric, if you're my friend, please understand the prerequisite for receiving this free land.
What do I need to do to become your friend?
Eric, you're actually already my friend.
Do you guys need a minute?
No, it's just that this man has taken a hypothetical situation and is making it real. Eric, I don't have land to give.
Now that there's an opportunity to own a piece of land, I'm even willing to
change
even my own
your
stand.
own belief and principles out the window. Because this. What?
26 minutes to 8 o'clock is a situation room. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads. Again, to remind you what's going to be happening to Thika Road at the Garden City Mall and what's the Kenya National Highways Authority is telling you to do, right? Okay, so just keep it right here.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Okay, guys, so Thika Road on certain parts closes today. Kenya is reminding you on the temporary diversion of traffic during peak hours starting Friday, that's today, to Tuesday. So we're looking on each of the days issued in the notice. Work will commence from 9 p.m. to 4:30 a.m. During this period, motorists heading to Nairobi are advised to use exit 8 at Kasarani, follow Babadogo Road, and join Thika Road through Outer Ring Road. Motorists driving towards Thika are advised to use the diversion around the site or seek alternative routes behind the Mountain Mall. Advised to approach with caution and exercise caution around the work areas. Follow traffic and the management plan and the directions given by the traffic marshals. Remember, this is starting today. So if you're on that road at that time, these are the instructions that you need to follow. And we already know that they've told us that there's a likelihood of massive traffic jams between now and Tuesday because of this particular road works. It's the erection of a footbridge. That's what's happening there, just in case you're wondering. There's a bit of a hold-up in industrial area today. We're trying to find out why. It's affecting traffic coming towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, and it's also affecting traffic towards Jogo Road. We'll look at the details in a short while and let you know. You can also let us know. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
All right, we still continue looking at big headlines. Which headline do you have, City?
The headline that I have that households, this is in the Business Daily, to pay 6 billion for power theft and leakages.
Who are we paying? The thief?
No, if you consume power in this country, you're going to pay an additional additional 1.7 billion annually to Kenya Power for electricity theft and leakages from an aging transmission network. Problem here is aging transmission network, which brings about the ease of theft and brings about leakages. What would it cost to stem these leakages? What would it cost to actually fix or change or bring in a new transmission network? Because 1.7 million shillings, billion, sorry. See, I told you.
See, yeah.
Told you.
Problems.
Yes, 1.7 billion is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a thing.
That is crazy.
Oh, it's absolute madness, and it's being reported.
Is it because you're paying the arrears that from the losses? Because there was a story earlier about that the power company wanted to pass on that to the consumer.
Well, with these matters, it's never really one thing, is it? It is that, and then when you read carefully and you ask, you'll find there's something else, and it is cumulative. It's issues that should have been resolved that were not resolved, matters that had come to the fore that needed, what should you say, a long-lasting solution to, and that was never provided. So now, it comes, and it's been quantified, and it's the amount that is being mentioned.
Okay. So I have a shiny story.
Okay.
You know how they say all that glitters is not gold? A British firm has paid or plans to pay 650 million shillings to mine Lirhanda gold. The residents of parts of Western Kenya are literally sitting on billions of shillings in the gold deposits. And this became evident on Wednesday when a British company said it has acquired a firm that is prospecting for the mineral in the Lirhanda corridor. Tanzania-based Shanta Gold Limited acquired the project from Acacia Exploration Kenya Limited that was originally owned by Acacia Mining before being sold to Barrick Gold Corporation. Barrick announced in a press release on Wednesday that it has received $6.5 million of the total cash consideration, with 500 million shillings remaining. The company added that it also received 4 million shillings worth of shares, 54, worth of shares in Shanta Gold and a 2% royalty relating to the project. So the deal was concluded, and this corridor covering 30 square kilometers with a land package of approximately 1,600 square kilometers is among the key projects leaders are focused on in the region's development agenda. Remember the legacy projects that you were talking about?
Yes.
So now gold reserves have been found in the Lirhanda corridor that stretches from Kakamega, Vihiga, parts of Kisumu to Siaya counties, and the gold has been described to be that of high grade. The leaders from the Western region have demanded accountability, and they also insist that the communities in those areas must benefit from this imminent mining. Cabinet Secretary John Muniz announced the exploration plans and formally received the 5 acres where the gold refinery will be established. And they've questioned the terms of the government deal with Acacia, saying it was shrouded in secrecy. These are Western leaders now. We want to know the exploration company's local representatives. We want to know who they are. We want to know the tendering, mining methods, and environmental impact assessment reports. And this was according to Amani National Congress leader Musele Mudavadi and his Ford counterpart Moses Wetangula. And this is what they said in a July letter to Mr. Muniz.
Okay.
New project, questions being asked. Money has already been paid. They are going to start mining this shiny mineral, but there's insistence that the people of the area benefit.
Read it correctly. The leaders who lead these communities
Yeah.
now need to come to the fore and champion the interests of their people and to ensure that their people actually get a fair deal. And for this to happen, they must be part and parcel of each
Of
and
this
every
conversation.
discussion that takes place so that the interests of their people can
be
be
met.
represented adequately.
Yes.
So now they are raising all these issues that must be raised so that their people actually benefit.
See them to be working.
Yes.
So, again, all that
In the
glitters
end,
is not.
the people will be where they are right now,
Yes.
and the leaders will get something.
And the people will remain as they were.
The leaders will get recognition because leaders require recognition. Once they get the recognition, the people will have benefited.
And you know, recognition here is not just an acknowledgement, a
Upon
verbal acknowledgement. No. In this country, acknowledgement is something more substantial and even tangible.
You've got to.
Yes.
I've got a sad story here, and it's on page 8 of the Standard this morning. It's the story of a victim of rape who was killed during rescue. A 26-year-old woman was shot in the thigh and leg as police tried to rescue her from 2 rapists near Nairobi's northern bypass. Police are investigating the circumstances under which this shootout involving the team of police officers and the kidnappers and rapists who carried guns happened. According to the police, the lady was kidnapped from her house in Nairobi's Zimmerman estate and taken to a thicket near the northern bypass where the 2 assaulted her. Her friend called the police to report the news of the said kidnap. Police and a group of Boda Boda operators then went to the scene. The arrival caused one of the attackers to shoot, prompting the officers to fire back. One suspect was arrested as he tried to escape. The other one, who was armed, escaped. It was then that the officers realized that they had shot this lady that they had gone to rescue, and they took her to Jacaranda Maternity Hospital. She was pronounced dead on arrival. Wow. Very, very...
There's something about this story that hasn't come out, has it? Why was she abducted?
They came to her house, they abducted her, the 2 of them, and they took her to a thicket.
You get the impression these are people she knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why they would do that as well?
Why abduct her?
It's just-
I mean, why? Why? You see, the why question must
and
be
carry
asked.
guns.
Yes, why? What was it about?
Why are you carrying guns?
There's, as I said, there's something here that we haven't heard yet. And in the coming days, like with most things in this country, we will get to hear and get to know.
It'll come out.
Yes. Remember, in the course earlier on in the week, we reported that there was a court case that had been taken to the High Court with regard to the leasing of sugar firms in the western part of the country.
Yes.
Yes, and the judge had actually declared that every process was to be halted until this matter was resolved.
Mm-hmm.
I wish to announce that the matter has been resolved.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That fast, eh?
Yes, the union that represents the interests of the various people in this industry has withdrawn the case.
So that's how it was resolved.
Well, if I have a case in court and I
So
withdraw
they've
it,
reached a settlement and therefore they've
they have
withdrawn
reached
the
a settlement.
case. Okay.
I thought this should
Do we
be.
have the details of the settlement? 'Cause
Well,
that's where
the one
the
thing that
devil
oh yes, this particular devil is that this particular union is now part of the group who are involved in the negotiations.
Okay.
I thought I should mention that.
Okay.
Yes.
So now they're involved.
Now they're
Basically,
involved.
what you're saying is that the farmer groups are now involved.
I am saying that it is being reported that the farmer groups are now involved.
Okay.
Yes.
So shall we report about the portal by the Kenya Ports Authority?
Let's do that.
It is being reported by Ndu City that the Kenya Ports Authority has a new portal called Captain Cargo, and you can access it via their website, www.kpa.co.ke/Captain KARGO. Gives you all the information about the operations of KPA and how they can help you.
So in this portal, there's what they call the Customer Service Charter, and we've been looking at some of the standards that they're going to maintain regardless. The questions that you may ask, if I'm going to import this thing, how do I know that they're going to maintain the highest of standards? Well, they've put it in writing and said, look, this is what we're actually going to do. So now if you look at loading and offloading standards, loading and offloading within 1 hour of the train's arrival at the ICD, if that is the option that you're going to be using. They deliver your containers within 5 hours of the track's gate in and gate out. Remember we talked about when you have your position slip and all of these fancy things?
I forgot to ask you, what color are those slips?
It's pink.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
It's still pink, huh?
It's still pink.
Carry on.
Pink slip. Well, pink slip. Anyway, so within 5 hours of gate in, gate out, you will have your containers delivered, and the loading confirmed direct delivery cargo within 2 hours of gate in. So you've come with your pineapples. We know that they're going to start dripping with that delicious flavor, but they will make sure that within 2 hours, all your stuff is loaded and it's on the way. So we're talking about the standards that Captain Cargo is telling us will be maintained at all times, and you can come back here for reference. We're going to look at some more of those standards. Correspondence Standards, which is one that you brought up yesterday. How can you be sure? Who can I talk to if you're feeling a little bit iffy about your export or your import? Email response within 24 hours. Acknowledgement of receipt and response to your letters within 5 working days. If you send a letter, 5 working days, okay? If you send an email, within 24 hours. Somebody's talking to you. Somebody's on the phone. Somebody is going to answer your questions. Thank you, Captain Cargo.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. 87.9 Spice FM. Mombasa.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
So Kenya is going to have a baby boom by the end of this year as a result of COVID-19. According to the Ministry of Health, on the effects of coronavirus on essential health services, there has been an increase in the number of women and girls getting pregnant since March this year, when containment measures were effected after the pandemic was reported. The pandemic triggered restrictions of movement and the stay at home by the government, and a string of directives from experts culminating with the closure of schools, churches, cessation of movement, and this is showing its results. We are looking at there's a chart here for the first antenatal care attendants. In 2018, in January, there were 146,693. In 2020, January, 147,3001. By June, first antenatal care attendants, 122,000 in June 2018. Let's compare that with 132,000 in June 2020. We have more people who are going. All the numbers for all the years, 2018, 2019, are less than the numbers of 2020 throughout this year.
Why do you think that is?
I've just said. COVID.
You know, yesterday we spoke about a certain gentleman by the name of Atul Shah, who was the ex-CEO of Nakumat, and how it is he was going to lose property worth 2 billion shillings. Now, this property has a little twist to it. The twist is that this very, very same property that one particular bank was actually given the go-ahead, the Bank of Africa, to actually sell, was also taken to other banks to not only seek, but also got funding using the same property as collateral.
Same collateral. So
Same.
Same security held by different banks.
Same security. It was charged to other banks, meaning use the same security, charge it to other banks.
Seems he might be in a little bit of a pickle.
No, the banks are in an
Even the
bigger
banks.
are in a bigger
Oh,
pickle.
yeah, because there
essentially,
needs to be verification of what
Yeah,
you're
due
taking in as
diligence.
security, or rather collateral in this case. There needs to be that making sure that these can stand as collateral.
So essentially, what the Business Daily is reporting, that he's left the bank with worthless security, because what do you do? 2 billion?
Who's gonna
Okay, it's
sell
not
it?
2 billion.
Yeah.
Fine, but so how do you divide it?
Who's going to take this
Do you
bit?
look at what you lent? In short, a new legal issue has come up.
You know, it's not the first time that we see this kind of stuff
No,
in the
it isn't.
banks. There was a story that we had reviewed a couple of months back about a piece of land and somebody who, somewhere in Kawangware, a family that had taken same title deed for same piece of land to different institutions and acquired loans from different institutions using the same collateral. And Bank A did not know that this same collateral has been charged
No,
to Bank B.
no.
So this is about banks then.
It is about banks, but I would perhaps make it a little more pointed. I would say it is about people who work in banks, because it's human beings who make decisions, and it's human beings who make these things possible. So it's a question of who I would narrow it down to look for the individuals who led to the actual ensuring that these monies were lent. Look there. And look at these people, look
It's
at their
true,
lives.
CT, but probably the systems in the bank. If the systems in the institution were actually stringent, and
Even if they're stringent.
there'd be checks and balances.
There
Before
are-
a loan is approved, there's an officer who checks here, and then it
Thank
goes
you.
up, and then it
Thank
goes
you.
up.
There is a what?
An officer who
So
checks.
it's that individual.
So this one individual does not work in 7 banks.
No.
We're talking about Bank A,
no.
Bank B,
When I
C,
say
D, E. All of them have individuals who are.
But when I say the individual, it isn't, I may have not, I think I didn't say it correctly. It wasn't the individual. The individuals involved in the process, human beings are involved in the process. And it's the human beings who must be looked at. That entire process. Someone who receives it just receives it. Then it goes on to the next level. Then the next. Someone. There's always an individual. The way banks work, there's not individual. There's always an individual who actually has to give an okay at some level. With certain amounts, then you get to a group of individuals who make. Look at that group of individuals. And
So
you know
where
where the
would-
problem arises,
Where would the
Eric?
crack be? Because we're talking about in this bank, there's an individual who does this job who has not done that job correctly. In another bank, there's another individual who does a similar job who has not done that job correctly over the same.
What it seems to point to is somebody who understands banking systems and how they work. And that they also understand that if it moves from point A to B, point B will assume point A did their job. And they will move it on. And point C will assume point B did their job. Someone who understands the banking system well and knows exactly how they will go about these matters. And then the individual is, by the way, is not exonerated, because an individual has to make a decision as to what happens next.
At some point.
Yeah, so even as we're talking about the ex-CEO of Nakumat, we need to talk about our banking sector, and then we need to look at individuals who hold the sort of authorities that can okay, or groups of individuals who okay and authorize such loans. They must be looked at also. This route we keep talking about, and we keep referring to KEMSA, and we keep referring to Afia House, we keep referring to other government ministries. You think it isn't in the corporate sector? It is.
It is.
You think it isn't in our banks? It is.
It is.
So the same questions that we raise for these other institutions must be raised for the banking sector. It must be raised.
Well, then. And those questions must be answered. Okay, so remember there was this contentious issue of the 41 judges, okay? Now, as you look at now, whether they will be appointed or not appointed, the High Court has certified as urgent an application on a petition that seeks to skirt President Uhuru Kenyatta in the appointment of the 41 appellate court judges. The application will also be heard on priority basis during the current court vacation, the High Court Deputy Registrar directed. Dr. Adrian Kamotho Njenga, the petitioner, was also directed to serve Attorney General Kariuki Kihara with the court papers in 3 days through email or any other mode of service provided by law. Others to be served are 50 interested parties in the case, including Chief Justice David Maraga, the Judicial Service Commission, Law Society of Kenya, and the 41 judges whose appointments have been delayed since July last year. Mr. Njenga, a lawyer, wants the High Court to declare that President Kenyatta's failure to appoint the judges in 14 days, as held by a 3-judge bench on February 6th, violates the Constitution. He also wants a declaration that the appointments have fully matured. This is because the judges had been lawfully recommended for appointment by the JSC, according to him. So, this now has been certified as urgent, and this issue is going to be heard.
So it's progressing.
Dealt. Yes, it is.
Let's see how this goes.
Let me ask a question, because this is out of ignorance, really. According to our constitution, is the president above the law?
Nope.
Just wanted to know. Okay.
Yep. So it's possible. Let's see.
Nobody is above the law in the country. Nobody's above the law. In Tenerife, as you come to the close of the hour, the official residence of the governor has been declared out of bounds for visitors after staff tested positive for COVID-19. According to the Health CEC, Javan Bonaya, 4 staff members and 12 other people tested positive at the residence. He says 50 others who gained contact with the 4 have since been quarantined at the residence, awaiting their results. So he's asking the family of the governor and members of the public to stay away from the residence because it's under health watch. Residents, family, stay away. Meaning family was not in the residence.
Yeah. Splitting hairs there, but okay.
That bit caught my eye because the CEC is asking the family and the governor to stay away from the residence because the staff in the residence have tested positive.
Yeah.
So who was staying
Who was
in this
staying
residence?
in this place, if not the family, in this residence?
Yeah.
Okay.
Quite something that's a bit, funny. In the next hour, let's talk about what happened. We saw happening yesterday. And this is detectives raided the homes of Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru in Nairobi and Kirinyaga. And it's because they are looking for information regarding the small matter of some 23 million shillings.
And the details that might actually lend or shed light as to how that 23 million shillings was spent.
Yes.
Or not
So,
spent.
so documentation.
Yeah. It's about travel and whether there was actual travel that took place. And then also looking at the documents that were used to lodge the claims for this travel and whether those travel documents are legitimate or fake or forgeries. This is a matter that is now being taken up by the EACC. But it brings us back to the issue of Kirinyaga and what we saw. Since the beginning of the year, we have just seen pressure increasing on the Kirinyaga County government, the Kirinyaga County executive in particular, and the governor. And this is not relenting. So we just want to go back and speak to people in Kirinyaga and hear, okay, so
What's up?
what's happening? Meanwhile, CT, today's proverb.
Well, today's proverb, straightforward and to the point, all monkeys cannot hang on the same branch.
All monkeys cannot hang on the same branch. Any close translation of this proverb in Swahili or any other language, please tweet us, SpiceFMKE, and let us know any close translation of this. All monkeys cannot hang on the same branch. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We live stream the show on www.spicefm.co.ke as well as SpiceFMKE on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Good morning, 8 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM. Kisumu.
Okay, there's traffic in Nakuru this morning, section 58. It's terrible, bumper to bumper, and the police are there trying to control traffic. However, it's a mess this morning in that town. Hopefully it opens up, and that's at 8 o'clock. And in and outbound, interestingly enough, let's take a look at Kisumu this morning. Into the city, there is quite some traffic, and outbound as well. It is the weekend, so this we understand. Mombasa also is looking good this morning. We don't have much of an issue getting into the town. Now, there's a lot of outbound traffic in Nairobi, heading west and heading east as well, so approach with caution. It's another reminder that parts of Thika Road will be closed from tonight, so you need to be careful. There's heavy traffic on Mombasa Road today, and it's outbound towards the city centre, rather inbound to the city centre. So this is another thing that we're going to have to deal with by virtue of the fact that people are leaving the city for the weekend. Let us know where you might be stuck. Let's see how we can help. Spice FM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation
2
Room.
minutes after 8 o'clock. Thank you very much for choosing Spice FM to be your morning companion this Friday morning. So let's look at what happened yesterday with regards to Kirinyaga. Anti-graft agency detectives raided the homes and office of Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru in an ongoing probe into claims of corruption at the county. The EACC said they were investigating allegations that the governor and other officials at the county government were irregularly paid travel allowances amounting to 23 million shillings. The detectives, armed with a search warrant granted by a Nyeri court on Wednesday, descended on the governor's palatial home in Kagio at 6 a.m., ready to carry out the raid. The raid would later be extended to her home in Kisumu in Nairobi.
And they
You
were
know,
looking
when it's not one thing, it's the other. If it isn't this, it's that. If it's this doesn't end, I mean, you've just come from winning a sweet victory at the Senate, where the county assembly had taken a matter to the Senate and said that they've impeached you, and they wanted the Senate to uphold that decision of the county assembly. And the Senate was like, nah. Well, yeah, there are issues that are emerging here that clearly there is bad blood between the county assembly and the county executive, but we urge you leaders to go and resolve these matters. Since then, we saw that there was, all this talk of some mediation that's going to be conducted in the county. The mediation was going to be spearheaded by some prominent personalities. That committee again was withdrawn, and attempts to mediate have gone to a point where the county assembly is changing budgets that have been proposed by the governor and saying, how much are you saying that you wanted for legal fees? 60 million. No, we give you 1 million for the year. 1 million legal fees for an entire year for the county executive, not for office.
Check and balance. In fact, this one, there's more check here than
then there is balance.
But remember, there's something that perhaps doesn't get the sort of prominence it should. When there was the little matter that went to the Senate, and when the Senate committee determined that Waiguru the governor of Kirinyaga did not need to vacate her job, what the committee recommended was that investigations by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the Director of Criminal Investigations should go on. They recommended. After saying, okay, you don't need to leave your job, you don't need to go anywhere, but the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, Directorate of Criminal Investigations, must look into these matters. So, this is what we see happening.
So that's the question that I think a lot was being asked around yesterday when we heard about this. And maybe you can just expound a little bit more, CT, but then why did they have to get involved in this? Whereby, like Eric just mentioned, on the floor of the Senate, they basically, acquitted her of all of this. It was not something that they needed to pursue because there was no case.
Oh, no.
Where does the
Why don't I just
EACC
read?
step in?
Why don't I just read what is reported as having been said? Where? Okay. Allegations are made of a criminal nature. It may be the case that while the committee has neither the time nor the resources to make a conclusive finding, they don't have the means to, because remember allegations were made?
Time,
So,
resources, or will.
Kabisa, the matter is nevertheless serious in nature and may require relevant organs of government to pursue. Relevant
Now these are the ones.
governments, organs of government are these ones pursuing.
Bas.
70 of them pursuing.
going into one palatial home after another.
Yes. So it isn't as though this was out of the blues. No, it isn't even in a vacuum.
Yeah.
There is a clear follow-up from what had preceded it before.
But she says this is all a charade, and
She did.
she's alleging that an unnamed individual is behind her woes. She is taking to this story.
She said,
There's somebody.
and if I quote at the end of her press release yesterday, she says, Kenyans are not easily fooled. They can see right through this charade. They know who is behind this, and they know why. It's about 2022 politics, period. This is after going through a whole barrage of the reasons as to why the EACC was in her home, and they ended up taking just a checkbook in her home, and everything else that was needed or required, she could have presented to them had they just asked. Okay? She says, there is therefore nothing you can look for in someone's house to evidence impressed management. It is therefore a shock to be woken up by a battery of fully armed officers raiding my house to look for evidence on imprests. Indeed, and EACC can confirm the multi-person search, complete with police toting machine guns, elicited only one document from my official residence and from my house in Nairobi, my checkbook, relevant details of which have been availed to EACC before. And this was what she took issue with. They had this information if they wanted it. Surely, she says, you do not need a battery of machine guns carrying policemen raiding my house in darkness to get my checkbook. This could have been easily availed with a simple request. I am also surprised, this is in now part 6 of this, that the EACC now claims the investigation is of 22 million. I wonder where they got this new figure from, considering the impeachment allegations and even their own interrogation of the same amount was 10 million. Why do they see the need to shore up numbers?
Yeah, why would anyone do this?
Why would you double and add some on top of the amount in the first place? Why would you raid me as if I'm a criminal who's refused to answer your questions? What exactly is going on? And giving all of this information, she now puts the icing on the cake and says, you know what? I have the answer for myself. The answer is that this somebody is not comfortable and it's about politics and they want to see me in the ground before I have an opportunity to raise above the ashes like the phoenix.
You see, now when you talk about this particular individual, the so-called individual who is really trying to scheme and what? Manipulate the 2022 and shape the 2022 succession politics and distract the public. So this is about succession politics, it's about Kirinyaga, it's about all these things. It is not one person who wants to be governor of Kirinyaga.
No.
We know very many. Well, at least there are those that have come out publicly, and there are others who have not come out publicly but have said in private circles, and those private circles have amplified that information. Many people want to be. So why would one individual go to all this length
But
just so that they can distract this person?
But newspaper.
And yet they are not even winning the confidence of the public. This person, after spending all this, will still have to go and convince the people of Kirinyaga to vote for them and meet with the other candidates. Why would somebody do that?
The question that you also have to raise is, okay, what you've read, Ndu, was what the governor of Kirinyaga had to say. But then the other side also had something to say on the same matter, okay? Initial probe, it says, now this is, we're talking about the anti-graft agency, that they have established that 23 million was misappropriated and spent on non-existent trips or were not accounted for as required by law. Okay? Then they say, quoting now specifically, preliminary investigations further revealed that the recipients of the imprest did not surrender the same within the time provided by the law, and in some instances did not surrender it at all. EAC Boniface Gashoka says, I'm quoting,
Right.
that in an affidavit filed in support of the Anti-Corruption Authority application. So, the anti-graft agency is telling you this. The governor is telling you this. So essentially, it's a matter that's unfolding. But of significance, anything that comes to the public limelight like this one, one must closely scrutiny both sides of that particular discussion. One, how is it that you get to a point where your MCAs decide that they want to push you out of office? Let's start there. let's leave this 23 million shillings aside. And the accusation seems to revolve around procurement and how there are people who have been favored.
Yeah.
Now, the governor of Kirinyaga, unfortunately, with this sort of discussion, gets the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
Because she was the CS in a ministry that was riddled. It's like one would think they even manufactured scandals. It was one after
It's
another,
synonymous
after another,
with-
after another. Yes. So
Yeah.
when one hears her name and is attached to some alleged misgivings or misdeeds, she unfortunately has that unfortunate position of being considered guilty even before she is heard.
But isn't it unfair of the court of public opinion to continue doing this? Because, you see, no charges were preferred against this particular individual in the matter of NYS or any other, right, when she served as CS. No charges have ever been preferred against her on any matter with regards to corruption, not even in the government of Kirinyaga County. Nothing.
But can it
So
be?
it's just that, at some point it was sweet to attach her to corruption allegations, that now we shall always judge her with that.
But
That
can-
whenever you hear something, you go,
Is it possible that without reason that she continues to bear the brunt of these things?
She's not the only one. When it comes to issues of management and allegations of corruption and interest and misappropriation of funds in the counties, she's not the only one.
No,
I
no.
mean,
But
in
look
fact,
at
when
it,
this matter
a
was
sitting
coming up, we
governor-
said, go to any county in this country and you will hear people having the same kind of issues.
Sure, but a sitting
Charity
governor
Ngilu
gone
in
before the
Kitui had.
Senate,
How many governors in Western have the same?
gone before the Senate,
Ask
and then the
ask the
EACC
question,
comes.
which governor has
has
not
not.
had?
Exactly.
That is perhaps a more pertinent question.
But from what she's saying now, here, from what she's saying is that she still seems to be kept under that microscope all the time, regardless of whether it's the county assembly, whether it's the Senate, and now whether it is anti-graft agencies, over the same issues, which in her mind, she seems to have cleared. They're asking questions she has answered.
Yep.
They're asking for information which she has given. So that's the question that comes
It's
up.
readily available.
Why? Yeah.
I
it's-
mean, are
it's
you coming to
available
look for documents in my house?
in my house, and then you needed a checkbook? Why didn't you just ask me? I would have given it to you. And this is where she's coming from in this case. That why is it that I am always the
Why always
subject
me?
of your microscope? Why
But
me?
of significance, when the issues of surrenders of impress have been raised with other governors, have they been touted as criminal issues? The answer is no. And she lays this claim and says, why is it that when it comes to my case, it is now a criminal issue and it warrants criminal investigation? Valid point that she's raising. Very, very valid indeed.
Yeah, I would say so too. That, it looks as though because I was tainted in a particular light, I seem to be an easy target then. I seem to be an easy target
Not-
for any
not
kind of
necessarily easy, but ready.
future. Ready, yeah, because I still have the scarlet letter on my chest, whichever way you want to look at it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
She's already been singed with this, and the aroma of the barbecue still seems to linger on her.
And
so it's
therefore,
easy
I'll appear
picking.
like big fish. So it'll
Yeah.
be a big catch for anybody.
If
And
you
then you
ac-
keep checking, but you still can't find anything. So you
if you
still
actually
keep
look
picking
at the
at it.
details of the case that has been leveled against her and juxtapose it with other governors who have had similar issues, you get the impression that hers has been peppered a little bit. That impression becomes clear.
clear.
Yeah, it becomes clear. You feel, but we've had other governors with similar issues. We have. And some of these governors weren't even there for impeachment. It's just what took them there was these queries that had been unanswered. It was part of an audit query. Now, hers, unfortunately, have become a dragon. It's not an audit query. It's a criminal issue. So, one could actually argue, looking at that particular perspective, that she may have a point when she says she's being targeted.
However, though, she can also just be reminded by the EACC that, look, we have gone to many counties. We have opened investigations in very many counties. It's not just Kirinyaga and the governor's office in Kirinyaga. We have opened investigations in very many counties. So,
And many are still ongoing.
and
even
then
as we
it's
speak.
still ongoing. In fact, some of them are even public, and everybody knows. We've said that we are coming to this county. We are looking at the conduct of the county executive in this and several other matters. So come on, you can't really now just sit there and say that you are the only one who's being
Targeted.
targeted. Just do this. Just answer the questions, and if you're clean, you're clean.
By the way, there's something that maybe the governor knows, but will not say it in public, or probably just doesn't know.
Yeah.
One of the things that police officers are trained to do is to ask you the same thing over and over again.
Because they're waiting to see
Where the chink in that particular
if-
armor will be. Yes.
If you're going to
They'll
make
ask you.
if they're
Same.
going, and it's deliberate and intentional for them because they're waiting to see if you'll make a mistake, and they could ask you that question for the next 6 months.
Same question.
Same question, and if you're going to make a mistake, you're going to make a mistake in that time, and then they will ask you, all right,
Explain
there's a
this.
discrepancy here.
Explain this. Hmm.
Where did it come from? But I do have to go back and say some of these questions are valid. I'm going to look at the 10 million shillings because that's what it was. The 10 million shillings was a question of, did you travel or not? If you did travel, was there a refund or not? Was there an imprest for these particular trips? Was it provided? Yes, it was. But then now, at the graft agency's investigations, this amount seems to have risen to 22 point something million shillings.
Yeah, because of others.
Now, that's the thing. There were others.
So this particular one was 10 million to her specifically. And I think the anti-graft agency is looking at the governor and others who have traveled and were paid.
And she seems to believe that this is still being
But
pointed
also remember,
in her direction.
yes, but remember, they are investigating allegations, please. And this is a mandate that the Senate committee gave them. Remember, the Senate committee took a few steps backwards and said, we don't have the resources, blah, 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 investigation, blah, blah. So we urge the investigative agencies within our government to do this job.
And they seem
to take
very,
up the matter.
Yeah, so they have
and they've
And this
taken up
report
the
was
matter
adopted by the Senate.
with swift response. They seem to have
yes,
taken up the
upon
matter
the
really
behest
quickly.
of the Senate. So it's not as though they have picked on her. The Senate are the ones who told them, look, these are weighty issues. Clearly, we don't have the capacity to verify them, but you do.
But
So please go ahead.
And you know, from
verify
where
them.
she's coming from, there is no story on earth and below that you will tell her to convince her that she's not being picked on.
Unfortunately,
From the
unfortunately,
very
in a
Even
discussion.
before the Senate handed it over and said we don't have,
From the very
she
beginning.
believed that she was being picked
yes.
Let's take a break. 18 minutes after 8. Let's take a look at what's happening in the skies, weather report, and then we come back and continue this conversation. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room this morning, as every morning, is Eric Latif, Nduoko, and C.T. Muga. We are discussing the matter of the Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, whose homes were raided. Let's just use the word raided by detectives from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission yesterday. They're looking for documents and information that would help them in their investigations over the claim of some imprest amounting to 23 million shillings for travel that is said to have occurred. So they want to establish, was there travel, was there no travel? If there was travel, was the claim properly lodged? All right. If there was no travel, why was this claim lodged? Were the claims therefore fraudulent? All right, 19 minutes after 8. Good morning.
Spice FM, Malindi.
Rainy conditions are in the forecast for Nairobi. Highs of 21 and lows of 13 later on. In Nyeri today, it's already raining. Light rain showers at 14 degrees, highs of 20 and lows of 13. Nakuru is mostly cloudy at 14, highs of 23 with showers expected later. And it's finally raining in Eldoret this morning, and it's likely to go through the weekend with thunderstorms later. Highs of 21 and lows of 12. It's mostly cloudy in Kisumu at 21, highs of 27 and lows of 15 with showers expected later in the afternoon. Kakamega, yes, 24 degrees. Is the high and lows of 16 with showers expected later. Light rain showers already occurring in Mombasa. We thought this was going to happen, and it's going to be that way through the weekend, way until Monday. So highs of 28 and lows of 23. Malindi is partly cloudy at 26, highs of 28 and lows of 24. Rain showers expected later. And in Kampala, it's mostly cloudy at 20, highs of 25 and lows of 19. A wet afternoon in the forecast. Mostly sunny in Dar es Salaam at 24 degrees, highs of 30 and lows of 21. It's getting a little bit colder in Johannesburg now at 4 degrees, highs of 18 and lows of 3. The sun is still going to come shining through. And Lagos, for now, 25 degrees and partly cloudy, highs of 27 and lows of 23, and wet afternoon in store.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Situation room is Kenya's biggest conversation. What did I say?
Yes, you did. Yeah, Corey, you're fine. It's the situation.
I feel like I've said conversation.
We'll forgive you.
All right, it's Kenya's biggest conversation. And the conversation this hour is with regard to the conduct of governors. And while governors are in office, we are seeing not just Anne Waiguru, but many other governors in the recent past who have been pointed by their county assemblies.
Or if they're describing it,
Yeah,
witch hunted.
over issues of mismanagement of the affairs of their offices. And then, in the particular case of Anne Waiguru, the EACC has now moved in on the recommendation of a Senate committee that investigated allegations that had been brought to it by the Kirinyaga County Assembly. So the EACC is investigating this particular matter. Anne Waiguru is saying this is just another witch hunt. And in fact, Anne Waiguru is not even looking at EACC. She's saying EACC is acting on the behest of a certain individual who is hell-bent on giving her hell.
That is a statement that anyone can make, and I've not heard of any governor who has not found some red herring to point at, or an individual red herring to point at and say, my problems emanate from this individual or from this source. Have you ever heard of any public servant who's being investigated who said, actually, this one is actually true?
I'm guilty.
This one may not necessarily be true, but this one, I actually
Come and
quite agree.
investigate
I haven't
me.
done this. No, they haven't. But significantly, is there evidence to support what you say? Because talk can be cheap. Yes, you're being hounded by someone you claim. Is there evidence that you're being hounded?
She
Or
says
is it
Kenyans are not
circumstantially?
stupid. Is that
Yes.
what she
That's
said?
what she said.
Yes,
Kenyans are not
Kenyans are not
stupid. They can
stupid.
see through this charade. This is about
Are you
20
Kenyan
quality.
City?
The Kenyans are not stupid
Are you
statement. I mean, absolutely.
And you can't see this?
Absolutely. See
You
what
can't see that it's a
exactly-
charade?
Look, this is really the point I'm trying to
Kenyans
ask.
are not stupid.
Eric, if you could tell me what I'm supposed to see, then perhaps I could qualify my lack of stupidity further. What am I supposed to see?
That this is a charade. There's a certain individual
No.
who has been pulling the strings.
Where's the evidence? It's a simple enough question, really. Where is the evidence?
So
The evidence is as clear as day and
She should
night.
have
You know,
opened her
it's-
mouth and said who it is.
Even if you mention a name, even if you mention several people, it doesn't really matter. Where's the evidence?
You know, some things, City, you don't need to have like tangible evidence,
You want,
like
you want,
DNA and
like
all
you want
that. It's-
circumstantial, for instance.
Yeah. You see a kitten, you know definitely the mother of this kitten is a cat. You don't need any further evidence.
Okay. So the mother of this particular kitten is?
It's a cat.
Stop dead cutting me, Eric. No.
According to her, and even according to James Orengo, remember James Orengo said the same thing at the floor of the Senate when this matter came to the Senate of impeachment. And he said, we all know that these strings are being pulled by a certain individual.
You know, James Orengo says some very interesting things. Okay? In the recent past. Like, if you look at the matter that has taken center stage in the Senate,
Yeah.
I've read what he has said. I'm wondering what on earth is the honorable senator saying. He says things. He says he knows. I'm not going to be enjoined in the we. We know. No, I don't know.
Not you as Kenyans.
You're not in the we.
No, I'm not in the we. And in that group of Kenyans who know, so long as the group of Kenyans who are not stupid, yes, I may belong. And again, it's a possibility. I may belong to that group because I'm not certain what is being measured here. I may actually be found stupid. So I'm not going to take a positive position and say, no, what are we talking about here exactly?
There have been games. Games that have been played.
Eric, let me ask you a question. When we talk about these amounts, because in this country, people talk about 7 billion as just being a mere 7 billion.
Yeah.
23 million is even not seen. Do you always see why I have a problem?
23 million is nothing.
It's
You cannot
a lot
even
of
buy
money.
that car.
Yes. It's not even seen as a... Now, surely, is there a minimum threshold that the anti-graft agencies are allowed to investigate? For instance, if you...
If it's below.
Yes,
this
no.
amount.
You see, where I'm going with this is, if you steal, say, 100 shillings, let's look at it. No, let me make a decent number, 1,000 shillings.
1,000.
But you've stolen it. Do you think you're any different from a person who has
Who has
stolen
stolen
a million?
23 million?
Yes. No, 23 million now, you've now entered the realm of crimes against humanity. I'm talking about amounts that
between 1,000 and 1 million.
around there. It can be individual, yes. So do you think that if you're found guilty, the person who stole 1 million shillings should have a longer sentence than the person who stole 1,000 shillings? According to our laws, the answer I think is no. You're a thief. And if you use violence to steal 50 shillings or 100 shillings and you use violence to steal 100 million shillings, you think
an
your
armed
charge is going to
robber.
be very different.
No.
You're an armed robber. So this amount is really irrelevant. Whether it was 23 million, it was 10 million, it was 5 million. What is being investigated is a certain inappropriate conduct, which has to do with procurement. That, if you ask me, is actually the heart of the matter. And for this to be proven, you require documents. Now, as to why the number of officers, the number that was quoted within in the papers had to go to various residences, I don't know. That is a discussion I will not even get into. But that they have the mandate to investigate, they did. And it's not as though the agencies are the ones who came up with it. No. The body that is charged with looking into these matters and these allegations at that level are the ones who point them and said, folks, we don't have the mandate or the ability or the wherewithal to conduct this. Please go and conduct it.
Will it stop? And this is one of the questions that came. I mean, she wrote very many paragraphs in her letter, but I think the question, or rather in her press statement, but the question: when will all of this stop? What do I have to do to have myself exonerated then before the powers that be, whether it be Senate, whether it be the county assembly, the nation, the anti-graft agencies? What do I have to do to show that I'm innocent? Because this is something that clearly seems to plague her. You never know when you wake up and there's somebody in your house.
It is true, but
because
let
of this
me,
kind
let
of
me
thing.
ask the question. Much as evidence is being sought, it implies therefore that the evidence isn't there. Has the Honorable Governor provided evidence to the contrary?
She said they should ask her. If they had only asked her, she would have provided this. She didn't know what they were looking for. You wanted a checkbook? Come on, guys. I would have provided you with this checkbook. All you needed to do was ask.
When the governor
was there any kind of documentation that you needed from me that you didn't ask me for? I would have provided it for you.
No.
But then to come and raid my house
No.
in the darkness,
It's
this was the problem.
uncomfortable, it's unfortunate, it's disconcerting. But when and one could even almost say it's unwarranted. But that would be like me now going into the mind of the anti-graft agencies and trying to tell you.
This was the point of what.
And I actually have
why.
no clue what the point was. I have no clue. But the question I'm asking here is this. Even when she was before the Senate, did she provide the evidence to refute this conclusively?
She provided a room full of boxes. We don't know what was in those boxes, but she says, "Look, you wanted documentation. Voila, here it is," and everything is then available for you to check. Whatever it is that you needed to check, here it is. So it seems that as though she's at pains, or she's a bit confused in terms of what do you want, which would then give way to that question or that statement that she made. Then clearly this is not about all this. This is just a smoke screen for what's really going on. Somebody's trying to push me
You
out.
know, she hasn't been found guilty of anything.
That's the thing. And so she keeps saying, what is it that I must do?
Yes, but the
to
allegations,
show?
I understand, there were allegations which were made.
And this is the thing. The allegations are still hanging over her
Yes, they
head.
are, because the matters around the allegations haven't
They've not been solved.
No, a
Yeah.
conclusion hasn't been arrived at. This matter, if you ask me, would go back to the Senate committee and they would say, this is what the agencies have found and this is where we are. But so long as that has not been rested, the matter will continue. It will continue. If you're talking about her houses, her office, I'm sure there are other places they could go to also. This matter isn't going to stop tomorrow.
But
the
why be so dramatic?
You know,
Going
Eric,
to her house in the manner in which they did.
I'm not even going to attempt to answer that question.
This is too much drama. And that's what she's complaining
All right.
about. She's like, all right, come on.
15 of you
But
toting
this
machine
one,
guns.
when this one comes against the
Do
backdrop,
you know what this does to my family? The people who are not involved at all in this matter, right? There are other residents to these homes. You raid the homes, you come and destabilize their day, you come and disrupt their daily routines. Just because of what? Because you are looking for
Checkbook.
documents?
you know,
Checkbook.
we've had governors who've been accused of worse things. Huh? That's why I asked about that threshold. Is it an amount? Look, if there's wrongdoing, it is wrongdoing. That's the point I'm trying to make. If there's an allegation of wrongdoing, it's an allegation. of wrongdoing. Now, until the bodies that have been mandated by our constitution to deal with these matters are in agreement or they're satisfied, the matter will not end. It may take time, but it will not end. Remember, we have cases of governors which are still ongoing. We don't hear of them every day, but they have not been concluded. And every once in a while, you read in the papers, Governor so-and-so has gone back to court to answer blah, 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 blah. Governor so-and-so. So it's not as though it doesn't end. Some began 2-3 years ago, still ongoing. Has begun just the other day, still ongoing. So in terms of the length of time, Has, one could argue, is probably the shortest one.
So she should not worry.
No, that I cannot make such a suggestion. Because if I'm to read what I'm reading, what happened to her is cause for
There's
worry.
still time.
No, yes, there's time, but it's cause for worry.
Yeah, but sure, if we're saying that there's still time and the manner in which this happened in the yesterday, then it's likely that more and more like this will occur.
But remember also, there has been claims by the side, the governor's side, that there's documentation that was presented before the Senate that was falsified. There was that allegation. And that allegation can be spun further, or it can be given a new twist.
Even that one can be investigated.
Yes, it can. And also that when you have such large numbers of people come into your house, how do you know that they may not plant documents? I mean,
those manner of
this
things.
whole discussion now enters into a totally new arena. Yes.
Or cut away stuff that they didn't.
They don't actually need just to inconvenience you. The thing is this, the governor has every right and is right to raise the issues she's raising. But the thing about her case is that she raises an issue, it just raises another issue. A counter issue. You raise an issue, it raises a counter
Something
issue.
else comes.
Yes.
Another one crops
And
up.
remember, it's allegations. So until there is evidence that proves a particular point conclusively,
Yep.
it will continue. This one is not going to float away.
27 minutes to 9. Let's take a look at what's happening on the roads as the traffic started building up around the Garden City Mall in Thika Road. There's a lot that's expected to happen in the next how many days? 4 days, 5 days. 5 days of disruption on that area. Hey, Mutajipanga. Good morning. Let's take a look at traffic.
Okay, so there was a problem in the industrial area this morning from Lunga Lunga to Road A. It's just a mess. We know it's drizzling in some parts, and we know that some of those roads have still not been completed in terms of construction. So everybody's moving a little bit slower. So this is increasing traffic. Traffic then connecting with Jogo Road and then trying to get into the CBD. It's a mess. So this one, you just have to be patient. Mombasa Road, absolute mess. You thought I was going to tell you it was flowing. It is not. It is chocker blocked between the SGR and Cabanas and then moving towards General Motors. After that, however, it looks good until you get to Bellevue, where the construction on that new road has slowed down traffic. Yes. Uhuru Highway all the way from the Nyayo Stadium roundabouts to Westlands, moving very slowly as well. Outbound, there's traffic in Nakuru, there's traffic on Limuru Road. Everybody's trying to leave and leave Nakuru as well. Okay, so it's a crazy mess. Spice of MKE on Twitter, let us know what you see. We're trying to get out sane, at least.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
Continues. There are other governors as well who are facing similar matters of a little tiff here and there with their county assemblies, and then a little tiff here and there with the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission or the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. One such governor is Wycliffe Wangamati. He is the governor of which county do you know? Bungoma.
Ooh, ngoma.
So the Bungoma County Assembly committee that is in charge of public administration and ICT has concluded the first phase of hearing a petition to kick out the governor through an impeachment motion. The committee, that is led by Halaba MCA, will retreat to rewrite a report, and if it meets the threshold, an MCA will move a motion to impeach the governor as stipulated in law. The petition had been submitted to the House by the two known civil society activists, Professor Nyukuri Barasa and Moses Lukoe. They're accusing Wangamati of corruption, failure to run a public office, and many other vices. So this committee heard from the governor, who said his people to be cross-examined. He is said to be cross-examined by the two petitioners, but he didn't turn up, and it was instead represented by the Public Administration Executive Richard Sabwani, a legal officer, and somebody else. And they were put to task to explain various issues that revolve around the hiring of staff to the government. This is 163 casuals in the governor's office. 163 casuals in the governor's office, unlawful employment of a deputy county secretary, 11 advisors, and many other issues that they say didn't follow the law of procedure. All right? The governor has 11 advisors.
Telling you. With so much advice, you'd think that would be
Not
some
only
fantastic
that,
things happening. in
it
Bungoma.
sounds bizarre if you just single out that governor. If you look at other counties, you'll find that they also have advisors.
Yeah.
You see, the issue here is again 2022. There is no governor, none in this country who will not face some audit query at some point.
Yeah.
None. So, the issue is whether you can actually respond satisfactorily to that particular query. Then there are those governors who have been...
Is it possible for you to satisfactorily respond to a political process?
Yes.
So this impeachment is being spearheaded by MCAs in a county assembly, and we expect that they're going to sit there and they'll be very impartial and listen to you and hear. No, I think the governor makes sense.
How on earth did the question of impartiality enter the discussion?
For you to convince them, for you to produce satisfactory information,
But
it means that even the people who are being satisfied are actually just sitting there and they're objective.
Eric, the satisfactory information is actually laden and is actually presented in the accusations. All right? When you hear or when you read, he has employed, he has employed, he has employed. In the old days when you had a municipality, where you employed your so-called local grassroots supporters was in the environment department, meaning people who clean the town.
Yep.
Okay? And it was known. Local authorities were always overstaffed, always. There was no time they were not overstaffed. And it was even understood. Where the problem arises is if it appears you're only employing people from your neck of the woods, and other people whom you had promised employment haven't gotten their people employed, because they also need to show their people that they're doing something for them.
Yep.
And there's no surer way than employing someone. That's number one. Number two, if someone is accused of misappropriating money and it is in the millions, immediately that appears, rest assured that when there is any movement that is adverse to that person holding the office, it is with a clear understanding that, okay, we understand this is what you have done, but there's a little detail of what the conversation should have with us regarding this. That conversation has not been had. Now, the conversation I'm referring to is not just a spewing of words. No. So long as this keeps happening, governors there'll always be an attempt to hold some governor hostage. And so far, we have a couple of governors who seem to have managed to steer. The one who clearly managed it well was Governor from Makueni. He took them head on and said, look, let's disband this thing.
Come on, evil.
I mean, let's go back to the people who elected us. He has had the last laugh. The others who had a stranglehold on it because of party affiliations and what have you. So they may have issues, but they get to a certain point and you don't hear of them. And then the other governors, you don't even hear of impeachment cases against them. You don't.
You never do.
You simply don't. So
There are governors who survived 2 terms and not once
you
was
don't
there
hear
even a threat
you
of
don't.
impeachment.
So you have to ask yourself, what do these people know?
What do they know?
What
Because
do
it's not
they
about
do?
what are they doing.
Yes.
Not about what they're doing alone, but what are they aware of?
Yes.
That then now fuels their action.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The complaints that get to the point where they want you out, they must have a method for sorting
keeping
them
them at
out
bay.
so that it never gets to that point.
It's called
And even
stakeholder
if they
management.
managing the situation before anybody has an opportunity to peep out there and say this and this and this is what is going wrong. So they have their eyes on the ground, which then makes sense about these 11 or so advisors that you talk about.
Because they're the ones that look at
Those
this
are
is
the
what
ones
we
who
need.
look and say, hey, man, here, this thing is about to blow up here and there. Fix it before it gets out into the open.
Remember recently, in an interview on TV, this question was raised to the Speaker of the Senate Assembly. The wheelbarrows came back to haunt him. And he was asked. Now, there are certain things which never go away.
They just don't.
They will keep coming back.
Those are hyped as bizarre incidences, like now the wheelbarrows. The reason why it's a wheelbarrow and you're thinking about a wheelbarrow and then it's called a non-carcinogenic and then it costs you're like,
Wheelbarrow.
wheelbarrow costing $1 million. Every village, every homestead in Kenya has a wheelbarrow.
Yes.
Are you telling me that
Carcinogenic
all
Every
those
homestead,
people- bought a
they're
million.
all millionaires.
Carcinogenic wheelbarrow in homesteads.
Now
Up
you
country.
see. Now. When you come from that background and then a governor has an issue, do you really think that the court of public opinion will even give them a benefit of doubt? The answer is no.
No.
They will not. This is where you start off being guilty and you need to prove that you're innocent.
But also at the same time, maybe it also points, if you look at some of these counties, it points to a lot of civic activity with the population and with the county assembly.
Yes.
Look at, this is Bungoma. Bungoma is the same one that had the wheelbarrows.
Yes, it did.
This is Bungoma. And the matter has been brought to the county assembly by activists. Not by an MCA.
No.
It's by activists, by individual citizens who felt that this matter needed to be investigated by the county assembly. They went to the county assembly and petitioned the county assembly to open hearings against the governor. Tells you something about the civic awareness of the people.
It does.
And these matters have come up over and over again about issues to talk about governance in this particular area.
They're not going to let it lie.
They don't just let it lie.
Yeah.
These are individuals who are coming to the county assembly. The county assembly listens and like, okay, so we cannot ignore this. Let's have hearings. And if there is merit, then one of us in the assembly is going to move a motion of impeachment. And if there is merit, that motion will pass. So it just twists us again and says, all right, so maybe even as we praise the people from the other counties that have never had an issue with their counties, assemblies, or their people, let's question the people. Are you saying that you're completely satisfied that this governor has worked 100% to your satisfaction,
No
and
complaints.
you've elected him for 2 terms, and not once did you have a question to raise?
I believe they do have questions. There always are questions. But you see, again, here, the issue of the minimum threshold comes in. By and large,
Can live with this.
It's like, let me ask a question. If someone says, I have a happy marriage, you think that person is happy every day?
It's the mean average of the days in which they were happy that they're taken into consideration.
You also depend on the audience. Where is he saying that, or she saying that they have
a happy marriage. But the point,
To whom are they,
who are they addressing?
who are they addressing?
But I think you get my point. You see, you look at, and this the mind does in milliseconds. You figure everything, all said and done, I'm happy. I'm happy.
All said and I'm okay.
I'm fine. I'm actually okay.
This I can live with.
Yes, and usually what it means is compared to so and so, I'm
doing better.
I'm doing really well. And the so and so is usually your friend.
Yes.
So then are you saying that it's possible that other leaders may not be necessarily happy, but compared to one Anwaiguru, for example, they're doing okay?
Look,
Passing
if
under
if if
without
if
much
if
of an
if,
issue.
if you want to nitpick this thing, look at the counties where the governors have been taken to court. You will also find that the management of that county is a bit iffy. Perennial problems with the health workers. Perennial problems with this. It isn't one issue. It may not be in the papers every day, but it will appear. It's not one problem. There are other problems that are there.
Keep emanating.
Remember, the thing that actually got Anwar Guru into the limelight was not these travel things. It was health workers. and the way the whole issue surrounding health workers was managed by her. Now, the governor of Laikipia is having a similar problem. He got rid of some people, the court reinstated them. Okay? Right now, there are threats by health workers that they're going to down their tools. Okay? Yet there are counties where that problem isn't there.
Doesn't exist.
Yes. There are others who said they'll resume work because their July salary was paid. And usually it's about pay.
Yep.
And it's against the backdrop of these counties having money to pay, but they haven't paid. Now, you tell me, when one particular issue out of the many issues in that county come to the fore, we focus on it because it's what has brought them to where they are. But it doesn't mean that there aren't other issues that could be looked into. It's just that they haven't come to the fore. I mean, do you really think, for instance, even if you take it to if you bring the discussion a little, should you say it, to a different level, when you're talking about MCAs, they manage a ward.
Yeah.
The fact that someone is an MCA, even if they've been elected for a second term, do you think everybody in their ward is happy? The answer is, of course, no, they are not. But generally speaking, when they look at what they think should be done or what they expect, they figure this guy is okay. Now,
Some people then have very low bars and others have very high bars
yes,
of expectations.
that possibility exists, yes.
Because when you look at some of these allegations that are being brought against some of these governors, you're thinking, all right, this you can go to any county and you'll find. You go to the county of Mombasa, for example, and talk about the appointment of CECs and the delays in the appointment and other issues. Yet Governor Joho has never faced an issue of impeachment. Never once. Not once. He has had county assembly that has worked very well with him and other counties as well. And you wonder, okay, so is it that there's such level of degree of trust and confidence in the management of the county affairs by this governor?
Or
Or is it a very low bar
or
has been set?
is he the sort of person who knows how to manage his MCAs?
That's true. That's true. 12 minutes to 9 o'clock. Let's remind you about the Kenya Ports Authority and this information portal called Captain Cargo. It's www.kpa.co.ke/Captain Cargo. That gives you a lot of information on the operations of the Kenya Ports Authority. We are looking at the service charter.
Yes, we're looking at the customer service charter and some of the standards that you're promised as you're going into these processes, whether they would be import or export. And look at another standard for port operations. According to the captain, 100% availability of aids to navigation. So now this is pilotage, tug and mooring services within 30 minutes, discharge and loading within 1 hour of mooring, the container vessel, general cargo vessel, or car courier. So you can be assured that all of these operations will run seamlessly, they will run in good time, and even if there is a problem, there will be somebody who will be able to help you out there. Now, let's look at the document processing standards. Invoice processing within 30 minutes upon submission of your pickup order or pre-advice. Remember all those many documents that we talked about that you need in order to get this done between shipper and agency and revenue authority and KPA. They're saying that these processes will take 30 minutes upon submission of your order or your pre-advice for import.
Very good information. You can find it on the Captain Cargo portal, www.kpa.co.ke/Captain KARGO. 11 minutes to 9.
Chilled Spice. .5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Spice and everything nice. Alright, okay. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
All right, 10 minutes to 9. We'll open up the phone lines as well, 0719-012-600. You know, when you're looking at all these counties and the way the counties are being managed, is it that the people are really happy with all the other counties that we don't see these matters? Or is it about the issue that you said?
You know, this social media is very interesting. There's someone by the name of Kimani Muhoro who sent me a message saying, it is all about equitable distribution of looted public funds at county level.
So it's managing.
Yes, if a governor is mean and loves to eat alone, there are problems galore.
Bus. Stakeholder management is a key skill that you need to have.
It's a fundamental skill.
Stakeholder management.
And even in a way that you realize immediately
Yes.
when there's an issue, put out the fire immediately. Don't just sit back and start chest thumping and saying, when then you call. We can even do what Professor Kibwana did. Why, my friend?
Send us home and let's
Do you
see.
Look at
remember?
what happened in Kwale.
yes.
Kwale, there was an issue that was flaring. Now it's calm.
Look at the way
Assembly
Governor
and governor.
Vuria handled that
Yep.
matter. Just look at the details. No inflammatory statements. Called caucuses, brought people together. Remember at the beginning of this issue that has involved the governor of Kirinyaga, the thing that came out here was some of the utterances she made. We said, yay,
Yeah.
must she say the things she is saying
Don't talk like
really?
that.
You don't understand how a government
Hey,
functions and such.
Bus.
In other words, you're not even up to scratch. You're not really up to scratch to get
In
this
her
work
mind,
done.
she wasn't
I just have to
addressing
deal
the
with you.
band of MCAs in that assembly. She was addressing whom she believes is leading them in this war.
And the MCAs heard it.
And the MCAs, I didn't know,
They
like,
said,
So she's talking about us.
wait. Adi?
Nisisi.
Sisi. Okay.
We'll deal with you.
Nisisi.
Now you see, when people want to, or it is given the impression that they want to teach you a lesson, my friend, logic goes out of the window completely. They have one sole purpose: to teach you a lesson. And they will not give up. And why? Because they feel disrespected. My friend, it's touchy, it's sensitive, it's thorny.
Yeah.
Anytime, like for instance, the issues surrounding some of the speakers of the county assemblies,
Yep.
it has revolved around the same issue.
Yep.
MCs feel, but this person seems to take us lightly. Eh? They seem to think that we are of no consequence. All right, let them see.
Let them watakipata.
Yes.
Kiambu speaker in trouble. Who else? There are several speakers right now who are facing fire
Yes, they are
from
going to.
their assemblies.
Yes, they are. One
Well,
actually.
Nairobi.
No, we know resigned, offered a resignation to the president. That one we understand fully. But they're not the only ones. Others may have kept it under wraps. But the truth of the matter is this. When you talk about the value hierarchy that people have, respect is right at the top there. If, as this particular comment that was made by this Kenyan is to be considered to be true, then you would say that when you have looted, or it is believed that you have looted county funds, the respectful understanding is that it must be distributed equitably. I shouldn't be laughing,
Yeah.
but there's that understanding. So if you loot and you don't equitably distribute, then you've invited problems.
Onto you.
Yes, and they will look for those problems. And if you look carefully, that is now, this one is not a rhino, this is an elephant that is around the issue in Kirinyaga. A feeling that you seem to have made money. We haven't got our share.
Yep.
So
We're going to make it a little bit difficult.
then you're talking
for
to
you
us carelessly.
operate within those same lines, and then you're on top of that, you're speaking in a manner that's not very palatable.
not respectful.
We're going to make it a little bit uncomfortable then for you during this your run at it.
You know, you may think that it is something that is specific and to which only the MCAs are privy to. It's just human nature.
It's human nature.
It would be interesting.
You
to
want to be recognized.
Yes, you do, and
Sure.
respected.
Especially if you are the
Respected.
one who has, if you have something to do to support this person's work,
Yes,
they ought to recognize the role that you play
yes.
to the delivery of their function.
And if they feel you don't, then you know what they will do? They will now determine to ensure that they show you what their worth is.
I'd be very interested to know what the feelings and thoughts of those, like the mover of the motion for the impeachment of Governor Waiguru and rest of those who slept in that room that night before that vote, as it were. I'll be very interested to know what their feelings or sentiments are about the most recent developments in terms of this investigation that's going on from the EACC, and hear what it is that they think. It will probably be, see, it's
Not only that, but did they
it's-
not also they
it's
declared?
it's
They
taking
declared
place.
even after the exoneration that this thing's not over.
It's
They
not
declared
done.
it.
We will
They
be
said,
back.
they said, this one, we're coming back. It's not over.
We will be back.
We'll be back. And remember, we discussed it here and said, these fellas are tenacious.
They're not going to leave this one alone. or
No,
just let
they are
it
not.
ride.
So you actually want to ask, how much offense was actually caused? You know, there's what we read, and there may be other things that only those in the community understand and know.
Sure, but you ask about the offense that was committed, but this goes beyond that. Just like you said, this is offense that was targeted, or this was offense at literally the heart of the matter. You know how they talk about, what you did and but how you made somebody feel by what you said is very unlikely that they're going to forget about it in a hurry, because they carry it about in a way that, you wouldn't with anybody else. Okay, if somebody stole money, yeah, all right, we can get it back. But this person disrespected my person. This person made me feel a certain way. And it wasn't just me, but there are a lot of us that she made feel this way. It's only right that it only makes sense that they're going to carry that around for a while.
In an African setting, when someone who was a lady who was married was considered herself to be mistreated, they went back to their home. And if you, the husband, had an interest in rectifying that particular matter, you went to her home
to see her people.
Now, do you understand why this was? Because if the girl felt, or whatever mistreatment she had undergone, her folks felt that they had been disrespected and disregarded. It wasn't just their daughter. So, you, the clever person who likes beating their child, come and explain to us.
After all, when you were getting her,
if we
you
gave
came here and we gave you.
Yes, if we gave her to you as a punching bag, you come and explain these details that you clearly have acquired over time. Tell us at what point we gave you this particular authority. You see, these are things that are completely embedded in relationships that human beings have. When you hear of irreconcilable differences, at the heart of it is just that.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
And you can't talk at it, you can't resolve, because they feel. Not think, no, feel. And you cannot go beyond that feeling.
Perhaps if she did take an apologetic stance towards how they felt about this, we would see a different playing out of the matters.
Completely.
Completely. But, she still remained on that point that as far as she's concerned, there's nothing she did wrong.
And then as far as she's concerned, this matter will not end.
It won't, unfortunately. And we're going to continue seeing this flaring up, jumping about.
Not just flaring up. When you have a job like a governor, there are mistakes which will be made and which will be attributed to you. You need not have made them personally. If, say, she handed over the documents pertaining to the Impress and they were lost, they don't exist.
They were never there.
Yeah, exactly, they were never there. If indeed those two lovely companies that had the same name but were spelled differently were actually... And the argument can go on and on and on. If I'm determined to take a negative view, I will take a negative view of everything. Even if it's the most positive looking thing on the planet. I'll stick with it. I won't budge.
All guns blazing and you're not budging. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the coming weeks, because the game is continuing.
Oh, yes. Let's see how this plays out. In the next hour, we talk about clinging on to power. All right? And this is a trend not just with African leaders, but with leaders all over the world, with the issue of your tenure has come to an end and you seek another extension of that term by changing the law that governs the tenure in your country. This is because we have seen that happening in Ivory Coast. We just discussed it a couple of months ago, and now we are back here. The president of Ivory Coast wants another term. Allah. Okay. As we come to the top of the hour, CT Muga, today's proverb.
All monkeys cannot hang on the same branch. We understand they hang on branches. It's understood, but all of them to hang on one branch as though there's only one tree in the forest? Nope.
Absolutely
they
no way.
They never do that.
Keep it right here. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, or wherever you are in the world. Broadcasting on www.spicefm.co.ke or SpiceFMKE on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. Good morning. It's now 9 o'clock.
Spice FM, Nairobi. Traffic.
So let's just add on to the traffic. Outer Ring Road completely blocked. Nothing is moving there. It's Friday, and we know that people are running around doing some errands here and there, and they started quite early, but this is what we see. Let's take a look at Nakuru, where we thought that the situation was getting a little bit better, but it is not. The 58 in Nakuru, chocker blocked. It is, what did you call it, Titi? Major crossway. That's the word I was looking for. Transit. People are moving, and it's Friday going into the weekend, so we expect this kind of traffic. But today, for some reason, people are complaining that it's worse than it normally is. Okay, so let's come back into Nairobi, Mombasa Road a little bit just before General Motors. And then after that, at the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, all the way to Westlands. bumper to bumper situation, but you should be able to get out of it in good time. We're going to see some traffic outbound on Thika Road, and remember today from 9:30 there's a part of Thika Road right around the Garden City that will close for the next 5 days. So plan your trips accordingly, approach with caution, and then use the directions that the construction marshals are giving you. Taffa Valley, Spice FMKE. That's how you can talk to us on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation
2.5
Room.
minutes after 9, we thank you very much for choosing the Situation Room on Spice FM, 94.4 Nairobi, Mombasa, 87.9 in Kisumu, 102.5, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nyeri, 90.9, and Malindi, 97.7. In this next hour, let's talk about clinging on to power, or not, or just listening to the people, or hearing the wishes of the people, or serving the people until they feel that you can no longer serve them. This is a conversation that has been had, especially with reference to African leaders for long. They say that, more than half or 50% of the leaders who are serving in Africa right now are people who have stayed in power for very long. They say that these are despotic leaders, these are tyrannical leaders, these are the leaders who do not adhere to the ideal of democracy, and all manner of things. Case in point, Alassane Ouattara of Ivory Coast. So this man, we had had a conversation earlier, because as late as March this year, Alassane Ouattara had said, you know what, guys, I will not be seeking re-election at the elections that are to happen in October this year. And in fact, I think that the best person that I'd urge my supporters to elect is my prime minister. And that story is done. And these are come against
And he
the
was
backdrop.
lauded.
Yeah, applauded. And still there was opposition that was like, we don't trust this one. This one, we don't trust him. And then there was that whole argument of, anyway, has Alassane Ouattara served 2 terms or has he not served 2 terms? The constitution came into effect in 2016 or 2010?
20.
Somewhere in the middle of him serving. Well, he came
of
into
his
power
term,
in 2010 after that bloody war that had took place after the back and forth with Laurent Gbagbo.
Yeah, from 2002. Yeah.
So he comes into power in 2010. He takes over. Laurent Gbagbo is taken to The Hague. They change the law in the middle of the term. So he says, look, my term then, we cannot count that as part of my term. Anyway, he had said he's going. Now he's back because the prime minister, the person that he had thought was the best candidate to take over, suddenly died of a heart attack in June. So Ouattara is like, there's a lot of pressure from other quarters. Now, if your successor surely is gone now, you can't just leave us like that. So Ouattara back in. And we have seen this with other.
Constitution? Notwithstanding.
Constitution Ghani. But he has not served 2 terms.
He has not, according to him, he has not served 2 terms because the constitution came into play while his first term had already begun.
He does have a point, doesn't he?
Yeah, on a technicality, yes, he does. But
So
now,
we don't even have a discussion here whether, did you serve 2 terms? No, that's not the issue, man. I'm going now to seek re-election for my 2nd term.
So he's really clinging to power.
Now there's a lot of back and forth on
but
that.
the question
you see, you had
is,
already pleaded.
this position that he kept existed when he said in March that he was not going to run again, that he was going to bequeath power, right? This whole thing about the Constitution and that he already began his first term when the Constitution came into play, this situation existed. So why then does it change now that he wants to say, I'll go for a third term because my first term actually is a little bit iffy? Why then? Only because of the only thing that changed this is because the person that would essentially take over from him died. And clearly he saw an opportunity to
Maybe
remain in
not
that
him.
position.
It's the people.
Which people? Which people? The people of Cote d'Ivoire who...
The members of the party, all right, the supporters of this particular party have told him, be the candidate again. Remember, Alassane Ouattara is not saying that I'm going to be president. He's saying, I am going to seek re-election. There's going to be an election. I'm going to seek re-election. So basically, he came to power in 2011, following that bloody issue between 2008 and 2010. 2011, he's come into power. They go through amending a constitution. 2016, they adopt a new constitution that talks about two-term limit. So has he served one term or has he not served one term between 2011 and 2016?
Well, listen to what he said. Given these exceptional circumstances, I have decided to respond favorably to the call of my fellow citizens. This decision...
There you go. I'm telling you, it's a
the
people.
fellow citizens that people are talking about right now, tensions are simmering in Abidjan. But okay, this decision, which I have carefully considered is a duty which I accept in order to do what is best for the
For this
nation.
country.
He added, going as far as to describe the choice as a sacrifice. If I must, I will do this for my country.
It wasn't my wish. My wish was that I
wanted to go home. He had already planned his retirement, ruling out the possibility of postponing the presidential election. He said, we're not going to postpone. The electoral calendar must be respected. And he spoke of a tight timeline, and he painted himself as a guarantor of peace and security, using this role as grounds for this controversial decision. And he actually said, I know it's a controversial decision. I
It's
know.
controversial, yeah.
But it's you guys have, I must. I'm putting up myself for this sacrifice. I must do it.
That falls in the category of things that you can refer to as bull dust.
Bull dust.
Why? Why is it?
You see, if these are statements that we had not in the past heard being uttered by African leaders or leaders who believe, and by the way, I'm talking about African leaders not because they lead in this, but leaders of the political variety who must pepper every statement they make with the people, the people, the people. Even when the thing that particular leader has done is to lead astoundingly in mismanaging his country. Again, it is the people. I don't have an issue with his second term. I don't have an issue with it. Because in all honesty, you could argue that you should count the terms from when the Constitution came into being.
Yeah.
And it's a fair argument. It is the utterances that I have an issue with.
Which ones? This one that he's saying it's a sacrifice.
The moment you mention sacrifice, that is nonsense.
That's what just triggers for you the red flag
That
comes-
is it.
Look,
Coming off the
if
back
you
of
look
what
at
he
this,
said
that is
just
it.
3 months before
That is it.
3 months before that, when we're talking about utterances, what did he say? He gave a long-winded speech about he's got to leave this to the younger generations, etc., etc. If
Yes.
that was true, the Prime Minister was not the only individual in the country.
But who else? You see,
Who
if
could
the
run?
party does not have somebody else, and the party comes to him and tells him, "All right,"
I reluctantly
so
give myself
we
up.
we ask you because we still don't have somebody else who's ready. Just vie again. Should we win? Good. Should we not win? All right. But this gives us time to present another better candidate, a viable candidate in the next election.
You know what?
Sacrifice.
This is a
No.
man who has sought the presidency of this country not once, not twice. He had done it before. In 2008, the reason why there was this whole flare-up is because many people believed that he had won, and the incumbent, Loro Gbagbo, believed that he had won, right? And now there was this whole issue. And that's why he was...
Hey, that thing was big. It's
it
a
was
big
bad.
issue. It's a big issue.
3,000 people died. I mean, it's not a small
It's
matter.
a big issue.
People died. Alassane Ouattara came in, and Alassane Ouattara has steered the country from that time, from the point where there was serious war, and even previous years where there had been serious issues in the management of the country, to now a point where there was peace, relative peace, let's use the word relative peace, to a point where we have a new constitution, and a new constitution that is not saying that we're going to have a life president, a new constitution that even limits the terms of the president. At some point he starts arguing, but you guys, I actually haven't served 2 terms. But it gets to a point where he's like, all right, for the interest of the country, I am going to step down.
So what happened to that interest when he came and said I'm going
And
for a third term?
I think that the Prime Minister is actually a good man who can take over as being the candidate of our party. The Prime Minister, unfortunately, dies. How many months to the election?
Just
We're talking
4.
about June.
Yeah.
4 months to an election. So you are telling this party, come up with a new candidate, vet a new candidate who can be president of a country, not a leader of a party, president of the country in 4 months' time. This is what he's calling, what are the words for the circumstance?
Extraordinary
Extraordinary
exceptional
circumstances.
circumstances.
These are exceptional circumstances. It's 4 months to an election, and you need to come up with a candidate. And the candidate that you had has died. What do? You
Eric-
look back at who you have.
Eric, you know this logic is the same logic that people who supported monarchies used. They also threw in a little divine, right and what have you. And of course, they peppered it a little bit. They spiced it, not even peppered. But same thinking. And behind the thinking, and this is where the sacrifice gets my goat, someone who is clearly enjoying his position and is being rewarded for it is talking to us about sacrifice.
He wanted to go home.
Go home then.
He wanted to go home.
No.
But then these exigent circumstances, exceptional circumstances
Eric.
come up. And he's saying, because of this, I wanted to do this. It's okay. I'll vie. I will go through the rigors of an
Up to that
electoral
point,
campaign.
perfectly understandable.
Should the people of Ivory Coast elect me, I will serve again for a term.
He may even decide not to. But the point I'm trying to make is this. When you think, and he's an African, all right, of the sort of logic that African leaders have used to essentially hold on to power, I would rather just say, look, I'm not leaving this thing.
Yeah, just say what your intentions are from the very beginning.
Okay? I need 5 more years. After that, we will do A, B, C, D. I'll say, fine. He has stated it makes sense. The point is, we in East Africa have had those transitions. Tanzania, Kenya, to be specific. President leaves, someone else comes in. Chama cha Mapinduzi in Tanzania would choose somebody who would be a successor, more or less.
Yep.
And since they're the biggest party, an election was more or less a foregone conclusion. We go down south, it's the same thing. We ourselves had a president who in 1978 to 82 was president. But we considered the issue of the 2 terms when multipartism came in. That's when we considered it. After his 2 terms, he left. So on that score, this gentleman could add a few more months to make it 2 years if he wants, and say, look, guys, why don't we change the timetable of the election so that I actually complete 2 years, 2 terms.
So I can complete the 2
2
terms
terms
and
fully, understandable.
There are things that you
But-
can put in.
Yes,
There
there
are
are things
that
you can
put in.
change, and it'll be difficult to argue against. But you want to be re-elected, meaning you figured, it even makes me ask, what did this guy die of, by the way?
He had a heart attack.
Heart attack.
Okay.
Now, this is the same country. You
You
must
see, now this is the
understand.
thing. You are looking at the man from the perspective of everybody else around Africa and the history and the context.
Yes, I am.
Look at him from the context of him as the man as well. So yes, you can mix the two. And allow your mind to move to the point where it may actually be genuine. It may be genuine. He led a country. There was a new constitution. He led a country from some serious civil war. He led a country to this point. There was pressure for him to not seek re-election, despite having asked, just brought it up as an issue. You know what, guys? So the constitution starts in 2016. We're talking about 2 terms. I haven't served 2 terms, but he comes and says, no. Gives a long-winded speech and says, let the youth take over. In fact, for my party, I'd wish that you guys agree with me that we elect so-and-so, and the party agrees with him. Unfortunately, 3 months later, the man dies. 4 months to an election, the man dies. The party comes back to him. Now, let's look at it from the point of, is it possible that other influential voices in the party are the ones that came to him and said, you know what, we will not be ready will not be ready
Eric,
to go into
influential
Plan C.
It's-
voices for a presidency on this continent. The influential voice is his.
Is his voice. We must understand we're also looking at a
You
country.
read too much Western media.
No, come on.
No.
Look at
Actually, I want to give Eric an example.
Look at this same country, Hufwe
Yes.
Bwanyi, the Papa Africa.
Yes,
What
yes,
they call
yes,
him.
yes.
In this country, died in office 33 years. Before these other presidents came and did whatever it was they were doing, he was the longest serving president in the world, the globe.
Yes.
Only behind Fidel Castro. He died in office. Had he not died, he would have continued. And it's said that after his
As
reign,
in death
is-
got in the way.
I'm telling you, after his reign, because we're going to call it a reign, it was not a. After his reign is when things began to go south. But there were times during his reign that he did so much in terms of economic development, he actually got to the point whereby Cote d'Ivoire was called the Paris of West Africa. He did so much. But then not leaving while the party was high is what caused the problem. You've done what you've been able to
Leave.
do. Leave. In the hope that the person who is going to succeed you will either carry forward your policies or come up with some of their own that is going to move the country forward.
Or take the country back where it was not so long ago. We are talking about just 9 years ago. You know, it's recent memory
You've done a good
for the
thing.
people.
Not just
You've done
recent,
a
very
good thing.
recent
Very
memory.
recent memory. You are not, you know, it's possible that the next person who comes in may not be able to, especially if your
It's
party
also
tells
possible
you,
that the next person who comes in is going to do a stellar and fantastic
and
job.
they only have 5 years to prove that.
You know, Eric,
But what's to say that after those 5 years, you're going to say, actually, you know
let
what?
me not
take
use-
another 5.
let
That's
me-
the problem.
Let me not use other countries as an example. Let me use this country of ours as an example. 1992. You have a candidate delegates meeting in Kasarani. And the issue that has brought them here, among other things, to discuss the repealing of a certain section of our constitution that would then usher in what? Multipartism. Leader after leader. You're talking about the party talking to you and giving you. This one was in the public domain. I speak about it often because I watched it. Okay? Speaker after speaker. And even prior to this particular meeting, none other than the president who came after President Moi, Juan Emilio Kibaki, stated, it's a phrase that I've always loved, that trying to get Moi out of power, it's like trying to cut a mugumo tree with a razor blade. I love that saying. Lovely saying. Meaning, and that's what all the speakers said, speaker after speaker after speaker after speaker after speaker. Then the president stood up. And he said, you know, folks, I've heard you and I thank you. I'm summarizing it and paraphrasing it liberally, of course. But we're going to repeal this particular section. That silence was deafening. And immediately after that silence, the cheering that went on, I have very rarely seen a more amusing situation enacted in my life than that one. But for me, it was an epoch moment for me, epic rather. It was an epoch, but it was an epic.
Epoch, yeah.
Yes. To understand human nature and how it is human beings are, he made a decision. Ouattara doesn't need those advisors to make that decision. He can make a decision.
He can make a decision. He just needs to look to his neighbors
It
and
doesn't.
see in terms of what is going on right now.
Look
Look at Mali, look at Cameroon, where things are an absolute mess because people are holding on to power. Biya has been in power for the last 37 years. The difference in years between him and his wife. He's been there since his wife was born when he was president.
Hey, dude, that one.
If you want to see how long we're talking
shows you the
about,
fruits of the labor. 19 minutes after 9. Let's take a look at the weather, what's happening in the skies, and then we continue this conversation.
Spice FM. Nyeri.
okay, cloudy conditions in Nairobi. Looking at rain coming in. It's drizzling in some parts of the city already. 21 the high and lows of 13 today. Cloudy conditions in Nyeri, highs of 20 and lows of 13. Showers expected later on in the day. It's mostly cloudy in Nakuru at 16, highs of 22 and lows of 12. Showers imminent here as well. In Eldoret, it's 16 degrees and mostly cloudy, highs of 21 and lows of 12. It's going to be a wet afternoon in Kisumu, currently at 21 degrees and mostly cloudy, highs of 27. And in Kakamega, it's mostly cloudy at 19, highs of 24 and lows of 16. Mombasa is going to be rainy this afternoon with highs of 28 and lows of 23. Malindi, intermittent showers. It's mostly sunny now. That'll change later with highs of 28 and lows of 24. It's mostly cloudy in Kampala at 21 degrees, highs of 25 and lows of 19. And in Dar es Salaam, it's mostly sunny at the moment. Partly cloudy conditions to follow later, getting into rain showers later with highs of 30 and lows of 21. It's mostly sunny in Johannesburg, and it's warming up just a little bit to 8 degrees, highs of 18 and lows of 5. And those sunny yet crisp conditions will continue through the weekend. Partly cloudy conditions in Lagos at 25 degrees, highs of 28 and lows of 23. Let's take a last look into Europe, where it's clear conditions in London at 20, highs of 22 and lows of 16 with cloudy conditions later. Paris, France continues to rain in and out. 22 degrees currently, sunny conditions to follow, and thunderstorms warning at yellow for most parts of the weekend. And finally, for now, in New York, it's 31 degrees. It's a hot day. Highs of 33 and lows of 22.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Yeah, so Ouattara, African leaders, and many, but it's not just for African leaders. The President of the United States is said to have alluded to wanting another term in office.
Did he allude or did he say it?
After getting re-elected, it's an illusion. But after getting re-elected, because he's going to get re-elected in November, then after that, 4 years later, he'll seek. Just listen to what he said.
In 78 days, we're going to stop the radical left. We're going to win the state of Wisconsin, and we are going to win 4 more years. And then after that, we'll go for another 4 years because, you know what, they spied on my campaign. We should get a redo of 4 years.
We should get a redo of another 4 years.
Because they spied on his campaign and they didn't let him do the job that he would have to do.
It's just a statement that he made. But listen to what he's saying. He's saying, well, I don't believe I've done this 4 years. These 4 years have just been full of destruction.
What's the difference now between what he has said and what a gentleman like Ouattara is saying now when he says, because of this constitution that came halfway through my term, I should get another term? Is there a difference? There's no difference. Basically said the same thing. It seems that when leaders get power hungry, or rather once they've tasted from this sweet nectar of power, it's very difficult to be able to let it go and say, okay, well, I've done it. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next person. No, it's very difficult for someone to say, I've served in this capacity. These are the things I've been able to achieve. This is where I have failed, whatever. Let the next person take over. What happens? Why is it so difficult? We have very few leaders who've been able to come in and say, okay, you know what? Let the next person come and give it a go. Let the next person come and try. But that thing is very sweet. And to leave it alone, it seems very, very difficult for quite a number of people. But what do we see as a result of it? What are we seeing happening around the world right now? What are we seeing in West Africa?
Germany
Cameroon,
has
Mali,
not collapsed.
the same
I
Cote
keep
d'Ivoire.
reminding you people that Germany has had a leader for very long. Is Germany in the doldrums?
Yes, but did the leader come out and make a statement that one might question and even consider to be unconstitutional?
Yes.
What was the statement that she made?
That Germans are not ready for another leader.
What's unconstitutional about that?
Not unconstitutional. It's just the same thing of
No,
clinging to
it
power.
isn't. She was straightforward.
Just the issue of
But
clinging
did
to power.
she
Germans
require
are not
to
ready
have,
for another leader.
Is it against their constitution?
No. Did it require their parliament to approve it, or did she just assume the position and then they just sat there and continued? Did it go through a process before she continued with the job?
No. She just continued with it because she wanted to continue being the leader of the party. And you see, in that system, as long as you elect the party, then the leader of the party becomes the chancellor.
Did her party have
Did
an
her
issue with
party
it?
reject her as
the
the leader.
same thing I keep telling you. As long as the people of Ivory Coast do not reject the president,
The people
have
of Ivory
no
Coast,
problem.
the people of Ivory Coast as we speak today, the people,
There you go.
the people of Ivory Coast as we speak today are not liking this.
Of
Already,
course, there are some people who will not like it.
Already,
Did
tensions.
Angela
tensions are
Merkel get a
simmering.
100% election?
Tensions
Of
are
course
simmering
not.
now in a country where there was a bloody coup less than 10 years ago. There was a
yes.
bloody coup over the same kind of leadership less than 10 years ago.
You know what? There is no guarantee that if that prime minister had not died, that they had gone into an election in October, there would not have been tension. All right? So let's not talk about it. Oh, the tension. So now, therefore, look, there are people who are going to be okay with this. There are people who are not going to be okay with this. Unfortunately, because of the kind of situation that Ivory Coast is in, the people are expressing themselves by pouring onto the streets, and there is violence. Some people have died already so far in this violence, unfortunately. For that's the case that's happening in Ivory Coast. But shouldn't we allow the people of Ivory Coast to go to the ballot? That's what our terror is saying. I'm subjecting myself to a ballot. If majority vote for him, fine. If a majority do not vote for him, fine. You go and convince those people who are complaining now. You know what? You have the power at the ballot. Turn up. It's only October. It's not next year. It's not 2022. October. Go to the ballot. Let's vote this man out, him and his party. That's it. It's a people's choice.
It is the people's choice.
So
but now,
the thing
it is the people's choice. But then putting yourself there again as a nominee, putting yourself there
What is
again.
wrong with that?
Why? And you have a constitution that says you
The
shouldn't.
constitution, like we've already agreed, starts in 2016. Constitutionally, technically, this man can still vie. He is not breaking the constitution. Daniel Arap Moi, by 1992, had served for 14 years. We came up with new rules. We started afresh with Daniel Arap Moi. He vied twice. That's
Agreed
it.
by
the people.
exactly. And in this case, you have some.
Are there, is it everybody who had agreed? Absolutely not.
Yes, but
I'll tell you, there are people in 1992 who were arguing that no, this thing, we should
It
start
was
on a
actually
clean
a very
slate.
heated debate.
Yes.
It was. But the truth of the matter was, what held sway was actually true. I mean, the constitution or that requirement came into being at a certain time. That is when you start. It's not complicated. Eric, I'm not disagreeing about the start date. All I've said was, instead of re-election, why doesn't he use other instruments that are available in that country to just extend that term so that
and complete the term?
Yes, why not? Because, you see, if he gets elected, you know what we're going to have? We're going to have a third term, and then he will have actually gone against his own constitution. If he gets elected
In October.
he'll have a third term, and he will have gone against his own constitution. For it to be a second term, they need to tweak that constitution so that the time is extended for that length of time to be actually completed.
Because if you're saying that the first term if you're saying that the first term, according to Constitution, started halfway, then you're going to add some years. What happened to the
complete the other half.
2 years? Then you'd rather even put if it's on a technicality, put the technicality in there that says, let me continue these 2 terms and then finish.
Yes. So
But
we
he-
know
but-
we are
but
starting
look
a
at-
third term afresh.
But look at what he also said. He said it is absolutely
What is a
impossible
term?
for.
What is a term in an
He
election?
said that it
A
is
term is
impossible.
between
Just hold on. He said that it
elections.
is impossible for us to shift the date of this election. Why? It is absolutely impossible for us to move the timeline of this election.
Why?
Why? Why not? Why not? If you're dealing on the same thing where you say, all right, if we're sticking within term limits,
Because he
then
understands
move the time.
because he understands the people. I mean, if we had started this conversation of let's extend this election, there'd been another outcry. Look, the late president of Burundi had done the same thing. What was the issue that came up? Serious outcry. Why are you extending this election? Oh, why are you coming up with new reasons why we cannot have an election? Oh, this is trying to stifle our democratic right. This is it.
And lo and behold, were they not right? Because the person who then took over, his pronouncements clearly cemented those very, very views that people had been complaining
Those same
about.
inhibitions that people complained about
Same.
came out to be exactly true.
Yes. He entrenched them. He actually came out and made it absolutely clear what his thoughts were, and the people's worst fears were realized.
I ask again, what's the problem?
Eric, it's not as though the man shouldn't be president. It isn't as though the man has not done a lot for his country. He has. That's what the job of the president actually requires. Okay? But if the argument is that he began halfway, okay, then
Finished remaining half.
please.
No. He did not begin halfway.
Under the new constitution.
The constitution found him halfway. So the constitution talks about elections. There was no election in 2010. There was a promulgation of a new constitution in 2010. The next election happened afterwards. And then he has served, 2016. And then since then, he vied and he served 4 years.
And according to their constitution, the term of the presidency is how many years?
Between, when was it?
It's 5
is it
years.
5 years?
It's 5 years.
It's 5 years.
Precisely. So if you look at the two terms, he should have served for a period of 10 years from the time the constitution was promulgated. He hasn't.
What do you mean?
Has he?
So the constitution was promulgated in,
It's
2016.
16.
He came into power in 2010, right?
And then 2015.
So essentially what you're saying is that if this new constitution came into play, he's only been serving since 2016.
Yes.
So he has not even completed his first term.
Yes.
According to that. So now what you're saying is then if that is taken into consideration, then add the number of years.
So
that
that's
he
why we're
completes
saying
the 10
now,
years.
that's why we're saying that 2016 to 2010, he considers it a term, the first term under the new constitution. That's why he's now entitled to a second term from 2010, which year?
2016.
2020, from 2020 for the next 5 years. 2016, new constitution comes in, he continues serving. Right? The election had taken place in 2015. He continues serving as president until the conclusion of the term. One term.
You know, this guy sold himself.
One term.
Why did he take it to 2010?
Then we move on. No. The constitution came in 2016. He started in 2010 after we took
That's what I'm saying. So why did he have to count it from that point?
From 2016.
Yeah, he should have started from 2016.
The same way he's going to be operating
Well,
on a technicality.
It's
the same way that
because
people
he
are
means
going
well for the country. He just wants peace.
Well done. The same way that people are going to hold him up to technicalities. That's the thing. And God help him if anything goes wrong during this time when this is going on. You see?
Yeah.
This is it.
Eric,
all over again.
all
This is
things
the
said
reason why we don't like this kind of
All
thing.
things said and done,
what happens.
he has been a good president.
He has tried. He has done his best.
As usual, there are people who disagree, but he has been a good president. All right? What we're discussing here is actually technicalities of that presidency. All right?
Yeah.
And not just the technicalities, but what can happen or what might happen if these technicalities are not managed properly. The base of my discussion is just the management of the technicalities around the presidency, around the new constitution, around the promulgation of the constitution. That's my discussion. Whether that is a good president, a bad president, should be president, no.
It's not about that. It's not
No.
really. It's not about the goodness or badness of the individual. It's about, honestly, it's about what does it say that you can do. Technicalities, utterances
This is
that
it.
you do
And
then go ahead and
by the way,
make.
it's as clear. It's plain. Between 2016 and now 2020, Alassane Ouattara has served one term. Has he served 2 terms as president? No. He's seeking re-election for his final term
No,
as
you
president.
need to be clear that he has not served 2 terms under the new constitution. You must be very clear.
Just like I
He
gave you
has
the example
served-
here of
he has
Moi. I
served
mean,
a
we've
term.
moved on.
He served a term. He did.
Yeah,
before
but that was before
under
the
new
constitution.
constitution.
So technically.
You see,
So
that's what I'm
techni-
saying. The same technicalities,
technically,
the same
the president-
technicalities that you use are the same ones that, should anything go awry, the same people are going to hold you to account based on those.
Yeah,
and this is what
saying
we are
that
saying.
during your second term as president, this and this happened. Fine. But you cannot say at you now, no, come on, let the man run. Technically, there's absolutely nothing wrong with Alassane Ouattara seeking a second term. Now, we can look at all the other issues of was it right for him? Should he be championing that the party actually comes up with an alternative candidate now that
Should he be?
the
Yes.
prime minister
Because
died, suddenly, and you're only 4 months to an election? All those are conversations. Let's take a break, take a look at traffic. 26 minutes to 10 o'clock. It's a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning.
Traffic.
Much better in most parts now. We see that Mombasa Road is opening up quite a bit. Still a lot of traffic within Nakuru town. That'll open up as the day goes along. Outbound on Thika Road today, some traffic, but then coming into the city, it's not so terrible. Okay, so we're getting out of traffic hour this Friday morning, and it shouldn't be too bad. Probably later in the day, you'll see heightened levels of traffic. Remember, as a last warning, at least for now, is that Thika Road will be closed from tonight until 4:30, and this will happen for the next 5 days. So you need to be planning your trips ahead of time and also planning your routes. Sawa sawa? Sawa.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It is 14 minutes to 10 o'clock. It's a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. So the issue of, leaders clinging on to power, leaders not wanting to leave. I have a problem when it's always being painted as if it's African leaders who have an issue with leaving. And looking at the context, if the people want the person to stay, let the people elect their leader. And I keep going back into this.
Actually,
The biggest economy in Europe. There was a leader. She has served for 13 years. This is her 4th term as prime minister. She's leading a fractious coalition. Their coalition is losing seats all over. Now she is pledging not to vie again in 2021. All right. She had done the same thing before. And then she came in and said, you know what? I'm looking at things and I'm seeing like we're not ready. If that had been in Africa, the kind of reportage that you'd have seen, the kind of news that you'd have seen, the kind of comments that you'd have heard from other parts of the world would have been different. Same. Mkuki, mchungu kwa, nguruwe.
I actually don't think it's just a problem of African leaders, actually. What has Putin done in Russia? We're going to see Putin as a lifetime president.
It's either Africa or Russia or China.
What have we heard Trump say just the other a few minutes ago?
Or Trump.
Oh, get out of here.
If
Who else
it
do
is
you
Trump,
want it to
yes.
be? That's what I'm saying. I'm talking about leadership. If you heard what I said, I didn't talk about African leadership. I said leadership. There is something that certain individuals at some point, when you've tasted from that power pot, it is very difficult for you to let it go. When Trump made the statements and put forth the sentiments that he put forth, he wasn't just pulling something out of a hat. Truly, probably something in him believes that there's a possibility that he'll come back for a 3rd term if he won the 2nd.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Obviously, it's something that he has drunk. He has drunk from this power pot and wants to continue. It's something that happens to leaders. Yes, the narrative forever has been that it is African leaders, but what you start to see that it has happened in different parts of the world.
In Israel,
Russia, you hear a sentiment that comes.
Benjamin Netanyahu has been prime minister,
Benjamin
finance
Netanyahu
minister,
has
foreign
been
affairs
in
minister,
the
prime
leadership
minister,
forever.
foreign affairs, prime minister,
the leadership
finance.
Do they have a term limit for their prime ministership?
You see, that's the issue. The issue is you as a leader. You see, we are talking about there's a law and there's also the principle. You as a leader, if you've come into office and you've served your people, get to a certain point where you feel, all right, it's enough. It's enough. It doesn't matter what pressure you feel, because that's what we're talking about, that it should not matter what pressure is being piled on Alassane Ouattara or others, or even Paul Kagame and others. They should be like, you know what, I've been president for 10 years. I think that's enough. I should go.
Well, there's the other side of the argument. If I don't feel 10 years are not enough.
Exactly. I extend.
If I feel,
And
I
think that's the crux of the matter. I think that's the crux of the matter.
To a
If I
referendum.
don't feel that it's easy enough for me to step down. Meanwhile, there's millions of people that you're supposedly leading.
And that's why
Where
there's
is
a
it your
referendum.
decision only?
That's why this matter is then decided by the people. One, there's a referendum to change the constitution. The people agree. Second, there's an election. The people vote for you. If the people decide that we haven't received everything that City Muga could offer, let City continue serving. What's wrong with that? Listen to what Barack Obama said. You remember the time when he came to Africa, he came to Kenya, and then he went to Ethiopia, and he addressed some delegation of civil society and youth and other leaders. at the AU headquarters. And this is what he was saying about transferring of power.
I'll be honest with you, I'm looking forward to life after being president. I won't have such a big security detail all the time. It means I can go take a walk. I can spend time with my family. I can find other ways to serve. I can visit Africa more often. The point is, I don't understand why people want to stay so long, especially when they've got a lot of money. When a leader tries to change the rules in the middle of the game just to stay in office, it risks instability and strife. And this is often just a first step down a perilous path. And sometimes you'll hear a leader say, well, I'm the only person who can hold this nation together. If that's true, then that leader has failed to truly build their nation. You look at Nelson Mandela. Madiba, like George Washington, forged a lasting legacy, not only because of what they did in office, but because they were willing to leave office and transfer power peacefully.
What?
Does it get any clearer than that?
Me is the I want him to explain.
wanted to explain the
It's like, I rest my case.
you're done.
Okay, what case are you resting?
Perspectives are different.
Eric, your point is an extremely valid one. It is valid because the people ultimately should decide. My issue, and I'm repeating it, was the technicalities of it. And I'm repeating, technicality. We didn't have, there may be people who felt that Moi should actually have left in 1992. But the truth of the matter was, the technicalities were ironed out and became clear. You begin, this is the point at which we started this thing, this is the point at which you start the presidency. It's like with laws. If there is a law that states categorically that I am not allowed to use my left hand in public, and it starts today. If somebody has a picture of me using my left hand yesterday, does that actually apply? Can
They
I
can't
be
hold it
accused of that?
against you.
Yes. So, in that respect, I don't think I am actually going to put my point across further because it's a small technical point. But what makes this a subject of discussion is because Ouattara is an African, is an African president, and people who preceded him have set a precedent that has not been pleasant. So he will be judged against that. Because anytime you hear of that sort of change, you feel, oh, this person wants
Just another.
okay, this person doesn't want to
Not
leave
necessarily
office.
city. Daniel Arap Moi did that. Daniel Arap Moi said, all right, so now we've repealed Section 2A. We are coming up with a term limit for president. Before that, there was no term limit for president.
No.
Now we've come with term limits for president. So let's start. If I'm elected twice, at the end of the second term, I will leave office. And he came out very clearly and he said, towards the end of the second term, you know what, guys? Look, power katika kontinenti la Africa, watu wanakatalia. Just the same thing you're saying. But not all of us. He stepped down. Look at the leaders that Obama has referred to. Madiba stepped down. He said, I'm going to serve this. I want this for one term.
Eric, how many countries
And
do
he
you have
stepped down.
in Africa?
Many.
53.
But I'm saying
Precisely.
there are examples.
How often do we see this happening?
He
This
was
really is
giving
my
it.
point.
He was giving it as an example to those others who have done the exact opposite, and to say that there are a few who've actually been able to do what they could do with the time that they were given, and look at how they were able to leave their countries. For you to then come and say, actually, you know what? I am the only one
Who's
who
very
will be
popular.
able to help this country move from point A to point B. That basically shows that even in your leadership, you've not been able to lead well. Because leadership, one of the things that leadership entails is for you to groom someone else,
To take
or at
over.
least to show that somebody else can take over. Because the things that you're able to set in place were so sound that anybody who comes in didn't really need to do so much more to make sure that the country was either one, stable
And,
or moving forward economically. Now, if you now say that I am the only one who can do this, then that means that there is an attribute of failure that you cannot remove from that.
If the people agree with you, let's turn to the people. Because you are telling the people, I'm the only one. And the people go ahead and vote for you.
All right. Eric, what does our audience think?
We'll ask that. 0719-012-600. If the people believe that you are good enough and that you should vie, well, should they elect you? Should they not? Is it okay for people to change constitutions and agree with that. Well, the phone calls are coming in. 0719-012-600. This is a heated debate this morning. Donald Trump has... I consider it a joke. Well,
He has
he's saying,
opened his mouth, and that's enough.
he's basically said, but because he's Donald Trump, now we're going to lump him with the rest of the
Even
African
when he said he was
despots
running
and
for
all.
president, you thought
And
it was
then-
a joke.
and then
And
we look-
here he is.
Yeah. And then we look at Russia, and we forget to look at these other countries. I keep taking us back. Angela Merkel. Good morning, Elijah in Nairobi.
Morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Morning.
Yes, so there's something interesting, and I want to look at the African leadership perspective.
Yep.
If you look at this idea of democracy, it is foreign to Africa. We used to have chiefs, we used to have kings. These were not people who were elected for a two-term leadership. Even if you look at our traditional power structures, there was a lot of respect, perhaps where Mheshimiwa came from, and these people held the trust of the society. But when you have this two-term, one-term, two-term issue, at the point that multipartism came in and the two-term limits, corruption ran amok in this country. Because people were coming in knowing they have a limited time, eat as much as you can, and,
And
let
go.
God take care of the citizenry. Yes. If you look in areas, and I've never been to Nigeria, but Ndu may correct me, the leaders, the traditional leaders, still have a lot of reverence in those parts. And there is no one-ton theft that we are aware of by people who are in there for life. But these guys who are here for 2 years, you are a shoemaker, and now you are a parliamentarian. We've seen it times without number that guys come in, and within 6 months, they're living in palatial homes, driving the biggest cars. And what they're basically doing is trading their people's power for financial muscle.
Elijah, are you advocating for limitless terms?
I am advocating for a solution that is local to us. This idea of a two-term leadership, I mean, even the democracy principle, who drove the agenda in Africa? It was not Africans. When our borders were carved up, we were given a political system that we did not ask for,
Okay.
but we are now subject to. It may need for us to go back and say, this thing works for the rest of the world. What works for us?
Right.
Muammar Gaddafi was not a president, but he was a leader. And he led Libya. I mean, there are many stories out there about him, but if you look at the livelihood and the lives of Libyans, they were better with Gaddafi in than with him out. And that can be said for many countries. But finally, Chinua Achebe says, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you, Elijah. Jimmy Kimani, good morning.
Good morning, too.
How are you? How is Malindi today?
Malindi is very okay. The weather is good. But so that I can go to the point, maybe because I'm going to take a little more time, let me jump into the point. You see, African leaders, Africa was once colonized. So the people who colonized Africa, there is a system they left behind. Look at the Mau Mau War, and all happened is that people were given a constitution. People were given how to govern their countries. So when you get into leadership, there are external forces that push you. There are people who do business and deals with the government. Ukisikia, serikali. Those words are not just like that. Those words mean exactly what they mean. Serikali. There's a big secret. These are people who come up with business issues. There are people who come up with the development issues. So how would you go out after 2 or 4, let's say after your term is over, and what you are doing is not finished? You tell me, how would you go? So you have to remain back for them to accomplish their deals.
Yeah.
Look here.
Yep.
The BBI is here. Yes? Look at the Kenyan Constitution. Look behind cover who was promoted, who donated what? Donated for the Kenyan Constitution. Yes? There are external forces who gave money for that Constitution. You look at this constitution, which says that the president's limit, the presidential term can be extended. Yes?
Yep.
Look at when Moses Kuria says that Central cannot vote for Ruto, and Ruto goes to Kiambu, what does Ruto say in that meeting? He says, kwani nikipatia Uhuru muhula wangu moja, kuna shida kwani? You see? So, what I can say is this. It is very good for presidential limits should be taken out. We have a constitution that says if someone is not competent, we go to to parliament, we have bodies, we vote this guy out, we check this guy out.
Okay.
So we don't have limits because this term limits, they will limit us from having a good leader if we will ever get one.
Thank you, Jimmy. Brian in Nakuru, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
How are you?
Good morning.
You know, in Africa, power is not given, it's taken. You take the power from the next person. So, as in Africa, as we are not used to give you power. And for us to be able to give out power, a citizen, for us to our voice to be heard, we need to have a clear and transparent electorate, whereby the guys who are governing the election should give out what us, the people who are voting, what we want. Otherwise, whenever we vote, we just go for the gimmicks and the gimmicks there. We just make a lie the whole day, and the deep state and the guys who are in the top office are the one who will decide who will sit in the seat of the office. So we should actually look for ways to empower the electorate and to find ways of going forward and doing everything together as an electorate, rather than deciding will the 2 terms or the 3 terms. If we want to, we will be there.
Sawa. Thank you very much, Brian, for your contribution, and have a good day in Nakuru. 0719-012-600. We'll be having the conversation on term limits and all, and that's what we're having. Let's remind you about the Kenya Ports Authority information portal called Captain Cargo, Captain K-A-R-G-O. On this portal, you find a lot of information if you want to export or to import, the processes that you need to understand, the kind of fees that you also need to pay, but also there's the customer service charge, and that's what we're discussing this morning.
Okay, so we've been talking about the charter today and looking at the way in which Captain Cargo actually helps you navigate these waters of imports and exports. And one of the things asking what standards when it comes to communication. 24/7 availability to make your calls, answering calls within 3 rings. Ring, 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 3. Somebody will pick up the phone and be able to answer whatever questions that you have. Identifying the department called and the name of the officer answering. So there's nothing like phones ringing into oblivion and nobody's going to answer you. According to Captain Cargo, all the information that you need, you can get on the other end of the phone. So CT, when you are up at night wondering certain things, where could this be? You can actually pick up your phone at any time, and within 3 rings, somebody will point you in the direction of who would answer your question.
Captain Cargo, www.kpa.co.ke/Captain K-A-R-G-O.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
That adage that absolute power corrupts absolutely. That makes somebody get into the office and they feel, all right, come on, I'm enjoying
Now that I'm here, why do I need
why?
to leave?
Yeah, why should I leave? And why should they?
Because there was a certain time within which you have the mandate to serve. There's certain things which you should have been able to do. I don't see how if you didn't do it in 8 or 10 years, you're going to suddenly do it in 20 or 25. You should have been able to leave a footprint, get it done. If you weren't able to do it then, and if you were able to do something, then let somebody else take over. Just what I think.
This concept of changing, and who is it that called and brought it up? I think it's Elijah. This concept of changing because, you've served and therefore let somebody else take it up. Where did it come from? Why must it be the standard? If you're serving, that's the reason why there's an election.
The standard.
For as long as there's an election means that if people still feel that you've got something to offer, they'll give you another term. It is not absolute. There is an election. So why is it that you're limiting the people the choice of electing you again?
You know, the issue of change, I think history is replete with examples why it is that came to be the choice of many. Because they had clearly, from the days of monarchies, from the days of kings and emperors, it was clear that when somebody stayed in that position and almost unquestionable, it was understood what happened. They saw it. And on this continent, we also saw when you had leaders who ignored the constitution or shaped the constitution to suit their purposes. I'm talking about history.
Yeah.
The example was people who mismanaged the country badly. Now, we've had people who've stayed in power, but you can't actually argue that they've actually mismanaged their country badly. The argument is they've just stayed in power.
They've just stayed in power.
Yes.
And nothing moving.
But if you look at a different system,
Yes.
this is a system where there's presidential term limits.
Yes.
But in parliamentary systems, there's no term limit.
Yes.
Right? Because it's still operating on the principle of the people will decide.
Yes.
If the person at the helm of this party is we see that this is the same person who's going to be the leader of the party and therefore the prime minister after the next election, we stop supporting that party, we support the other party.
A presidential
So
system.
the same way, if we can say that this standard is being applied on leadership because a prime minister is the one who's running a government and a president is coming in to run a government, primarily run the government, why don't we just say the same thing? Let the people decide. Why must we limit the term of a head of government if a head of government is a president, and then we're not limiting the term of a head of government if a head of government is a prime minister?
Where did the whole concept of term limit come from?
Actually, it's a structure of the two systems. They are different, Eric. A parliamentary system, it would be difficult for you to actually state that for the simple reason that you are not elected as president. It is your party that wins an election, and the leader of that party becomes the. And that's why Netanyahu can move back and forth as he sees fit.
Yep. And you know why parties lose those elections? Because of the leadership.
They do.
In one election, you'll find that a party has won an election because of the person who stood as the leader. And therefore the people are supporting what this person represents. And they see that this is what the person will do as the leader of that party.
Yes.
The next time, because they're dissatisfied with the leadership of this person, and the same person is the one who's leading his party to the election, people don't support that party. And the other person who's more charismatic or promises better wins.
Yes, but
So
also
it's
there's
still personality,
No.
even though it's party.
personality, yes, always, but also party. In a parliamentary system, the party is actually very key. You see, when you have a parliamentary system, what often is required is an understanding with other parties, because there's actually no guarantee that your party will always have a majority.
No, there's
So you have to talk to people.
There's consensus.
Yes, the idea being you don't have a monopoly in parliament where essentially you'll have a dictatorship by party. If you look at the German system actually is crafted in such a way that you cannot have any party having a majority in that parliament. You cannot. And why? Because they've understood. When we had our world wars, first and second, they learned something when Hitler came into power. And they realized the one thing you don't ever really want, you don't want a demagogue like this gentleman, and you also don't want a situation where one party has that amount of power.
Yeah, singularity of opinion.
You
on voice
don't
as
want.
well. You don't want that.
They understood that. Now, a presidential system where you elect the president gives you that. And that is why the U.S. is having the problems they're having with their president. Because there's a presidential system. And the president decides. The president says.
Gives an executive.
Yes. In the parliamentary system, man, your partners can decide them they're taking off.
But also remember,
the end of the story of that
presidential
particular
system
government.
still has checks and balances. Anyway, we're coming to the end of the week, and the end of the show today. It's 9 to. So, today's proverb.
All monkeys cannot hang on the same branch. Let's start with the view that a forest doesn't just have one tree, okay? And because of that, you have a choice. So, choose a branch on which you want to hang.
Thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room this week. Join us again next week, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., Monday to Friday. Ndu Oko, C.T. Muga, and Eric Latif saying goodbye. Ndu, say goodbye, and what's coming next?
Goodbye and uninterrupted music between now and 3 p.m. Then Monique comes in at 3 with a Spice Drive until 7 p.m.